They said she was cursed, too weak to survive, too broken to matter. Tonight, under a sky bleeding crimson, Kayla Thorne will learn what rejection truly means, not from an enemy, but from the one person fate chose for her. The alpha who was supposed to protect her will destroy her instead. And when the pack she called family turns their backs, she'll face a choice: die in the snow like they expect, or become something they'll never forget. This is the story of a girl who was thrown away, and the monster she became to take it all back. Stay until the end to see how she makes them pay. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. Let's see who's watching tonight. The bonfire crackled like bones breaking. Kayla stood in the center of the gathering circle, surrounded by 200 wolves pretending to be human. Their eyes glowed amber in the firelight, hungry, waiting. The air smelled of pine smoke and something metallic. Fear, maybe. Or anticipation. She couldn't tell anymore. Her hands were shaking, but she kept them pressed flat against her thighs. If she let them see her tremble, it would be worse. It was always worse when they smelled weakness. Rhett Calder stood across from her, 10 feet of frozen ground between them. His jaw was set, shoulders squared. He looked like every story she'd ever been told about what an alpha should be: tall, broad, dangerous. The kind of man who could snap a tree in half or rip out a throat without blinking. And he was hers. Or he was supposed to be. The mate bond had snapped into place 3 months ago during the autumn hunt. She'd felt it like a rope around her ribs, pulling her toward him even when she didn't want to move. Everyone said it was destiny. The moon knew what it was doing. You didn't question the bond, but Rhett had been questioning it ever since. Kayla Thorne. His voice cut through the crowd, sharp and cold. Conversations died. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. She met his eyes. Tried to find something there. Regret, hesitation, anything human. But there was nothing, just ice. You stand before the Red Creek pack under the light of the first winter moon. He spoke like he was reading from a script. Formal, detached. You were chosen by fate to stand beside me as mate and equal. A few wolves shifted. Someone coughed. Kayla's heartbeat was so loud she thought the entire pack could hear it. Rhett's expression didn't change. But fate makes mistakes. The words landed like stones. Kayla's breath caught. She heard a gasp from somewhere in the crowd. Probably Mara, her only friend left in this godforsaken place. But Mara was too far away to help now. No one was close enough. You are weak, Rhett continued, and his voice was steady. Practiced, like he'd rehearsed this. You cannot shift fully. You cannot hunt. You cannot fight. You bring shame to this pack and dishonor to the bloodline. Her nails bit into her palms. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him that she'd tried. Every day she'd tried to force the shift, to be what they needed. But her wolf was broken, incomplete. It clawed at her insides but never fully emerged, leaving her stuck between human and beast, belonging to neither. The bond is sacred, someone called from the crowd. It was Elder Thane, his face shadowed beneath a hood. You cannot simply... I can. Rhett's voice dropped, but it carried. The law is clear. A mate who cannot serve the pack can be rejected. For the good of Red Creek, I invoke that right. Kayla's knees almost buckled. No. She'd known this was coming. She'd felt it in the way he avoided her, the way his eyes slid past her like she was already gone. But knowing and hearing it were two different things. Rhett. Her voice cracked. She hated how small it sounded. Please, just give me more time. I can... You can't. He took a step forward, and the firelight made his face look like something carved from stone. I've given you time. 3 months. You're still the same. Still useless. The word hit her like a fist. Useless. She'd heard it before. Whispered behind hands, muttered when they thought she couldn't hear, but never like this. Never from him. I, Rhett Calder, alpha of the Red Creek Pack, reject you, Kayla Thorne, as my fated mate. The bond snapped. It didn't fade. It didn't fray. It broke, all at once, like a bone splintering. Kayla gasped and doubled over, clutching her chest. Pain exploded through her ribs, her lungs, her throat. It felt like something vital had been ripped out and left a hole behind. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The ground tilted. Someone laughed, high and sharp. She didn't know who. Get up, Rhett said. She tried. Her legs wouldn't work. Her vision blurred. The edges of the world went gray and soft. Pathetic, someone muttered. Told you she was cursed. Should have been cold years ago. Voices piled on top of each other, crushing her under their weight. She wanted to disappear, wanted to sink into the dirt and let it swallow her whole. But then Rhett crouched in front of her, close enough that she could see the firelight reflected in his eyes. You don't belong here, he said quietly, almost gently, like he was doing her a favor. You never did. Kayla looked up at him, and for one horrible second, she thought she saw pity. She would have preferred hatred. Exile her, Rhett said, standing. He didn't look at her again. Strip her of her name, her rank, her place in the pack. She is no longer one of us. No! Mara's voice rang out, desperate and furious. Kayla saw her friend shove through the crowd, her dark hair wild around her face. You can't just... This is murder, Rhett. She won't survive out there. That's not my problem. Rhett turned his back, dismissive. Done. Two enforcers grabbed Kayla by the arms and hauled her to her feet. She didn't fight. What was the point? Her body felt like it belonged to someone else. Wait! Mara lunged forward, but another wolf caught her, held her back. Kayla! Kayla, fight back! Do something! But Kayla couldn't. She was so tired. They dragged her past the bonfire, past the rows of watching wolves. Some looked away. Most didn't. A few smiled. At the edge of the clearing, they stopped. One of the enforcers, a man named Garrett, with a scar across his mouth, leaned in close. If you come back, he said, we'll kill you. Then they shoved her forward into the dark. Kayla stumbled, caught herself on a tree. Her legs were shaking so badly she could barely stand. Behind her, the bonfire roared. Laughter drifted through the trees. They were celebrating. She turned and started walking. She didn't know where, just away. The forest swallowed her whole. The first night, she tried to make a shelter. Her hands were clumsy and numb. She managed to prop a few branches against a fallen log, but the wind tore them down within an hour. Snow started falling, light at first, then heavier. It piled on her shoulders, her hair melted against her skin and soaked through her clothes. She had no coat, no supplies, just the thin tunic and leggings she'd been wearing at the gathering. By the second night, she couldn't feel her fingers. She walked because stopping meant freezing. Her breath came in short, painful gasps. Her ribs still ached from the broken bond, like something inside her was rotting. On the third night, she collapsed. The snow had turned into a full storm. Wind screamed through the trees, tearing at her hair, her skin. She crawled under an overhang of rock and curled into a ball, shivering so hard her teeth cracked together. This was it. This was how she died. Alone. Forgotten. Exactly like they said she would. She closed her eyes. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. No, not a wolf. Something else, deeper, older. Kayla's eyes snapped open. The sound came again, closer this time. It didn't sound like any animal she knew. It resonated in her chest, in her bones, like it was calling to something buried deep inside her. She sat up, barely, and peered into the storm. Two eyes stared back at her from the darkness. Not amber. Not the golden glow of a wolf. Silver. The creature stepped forward, and Kayla's breath caught. It was massive, easily twice the size of any wolf she'd ever seen, with fur so black it seemed to drink the light. Its eyes were intelligent, ancient. It should have terrified her. Instead, she felt calm. The creature padded closer, stopping just a few feet away. It lowered its head and huffed, warm breath misting in the frozen air. Kayla stared at it. What are you? It didn't answer, obviously, but it sat, patient, like it was waiting for something. Her hand moved on its own. She reached out, trembling, and touched its fur. The moment her skin made contact, something inside her ignited. Heat flooded her veins, her vision sharpened, the pain in her chest vanished, replaced by something wild and powerful and right. The creature rumbled, a sound that felt like approval. And then it turned and walked into the storm. Kayla didn't think. She followed. She didn't remember most of the journey. Her body moved on autopilot, following the massive black wolf through snow and wind and darkness. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time didn't work right anymore. When she finally stopped, she was standing in a cave. No, not a cave. A den, warm, dry, lined with moss and soft earth. The black wolf was already inside, curled in the corner, watching her with those silver eyes. Kayla collapsed just inside the entrance. Her body gave out all at once, and she hit the ground hard. The last thing she saw before unconsciousness took her was the wolf, rising, moving closer, protecting her. She woke to warmth, not the harsh, burning kind. Gentle, steady. Kayla opened her eyes slowly. Firelight danced on the cave walls. Someone had built a small fire near the entrance. The black wolf was gone. Instead, sitting cross-legged by the flames, was a woman. She was old, ancient maybe. Her hair was long and white, her skin weathered like tree bark. But her eyes were sharp, silver, just like the wolf's. "You're awake," the woman said. Her voice was rough, like she didn't use it often. "Good. Thought you might have died." Kayla tried to sit up. Every muscle screamed in protest. Where am I?" "My home." The woman poked at the fire with a stick. "Deep in the thornwood, far from your pack." "They're not my pack." The words came out bitter. "Not anymore." "No," the woman agreed. "They're not." Kayla stared at her. "Who are you?" The woman smiled. It wasn't comforting. "Someone who knows what you are." "I'm nothing," Kayla's voice cracked. "I'm broken. That's why they—" "You're not broken." The woman's eyes locked onto hers, fierce and unblinking. "You're asleep." Kayla blinked. "What?" "Your wolf. It's not weak. It's dormant." The woman leaned forward, firelight casting shadows across her face. "You're not like them, girl. You never were. You're something older. Something they feared so much they forgot it existed. I don't understand." "You will." The woman stood, joints creaking. "But first, you need to survive. And survival means waking up what they tried to bury." Kayla's heart pounded. "How?" The woman smiled again. This time, it was almost kind. "By stopping trying to be what they wanted, and becoming what you were always meant to be." She extended a hand. Kayla stared at it for a long moment. Every instinct screamed at her to be careful, to question, to protect herself. But she had nothing left to protect. She took the woman's hand, and for the first time since the rejection, she felt something other than pain. She felt hunger. The woman's name was Sable. She didn't explain much, just handed Kayla a bowl of something that smelled like pine and tasted like dirt, then pointed to a pile of furs in the corner. "Sleep," Sable said. "Real sleep. Not that half-dead thing you've been doing." Kayla wanted to argue, wanted answers, but her body had other ideas. The moment she lay down, exhaustion dragged her under like a current. She dreamed of silver eyes and endless forests, of running faster than she'd ever run before, her body sleek and powerful and whole, of a howl that shook the earth. When she woke, 3 days had passed. Sable told her this while handing her another bowl of the awful-tasting soup. "You needed it. Your body was shutting down." Kayla's hands shook as she took the bowl. She felt different, stronger somehow, like something inside her had shifted while she slept. "What did you give me?" she asked. "Medicine, food, time." Sable settled onto a stump near the fire. "Your turn. Tell me what happened." So Kayla did. She told her about the rejection, about Rhett's cold eyes and colder words, about the pack's laughter and Mara's screams, and the way they'd thrown her into the snow like garbage. Sable listened without interrupting. When Kayla finished, the old woman was quiet for a long time. "They're fools," she finally said. "They're right." Kayla set down the bowl. She hadn't touched it. "I can't shift. I can't hunt. You're a thornborn." Kayla froze. "A what?" Sable's eyes gleamed. "That's what they used to call your kind. Before the packs decided they were the only ones who mattered. Before they rewrote the old laws and buried the old ways." What are you talking about?" "Wolves like you," Sable said slowly, "don't shift the way pack wolves do. You're not meant to. You're connected to something deeper, older, the land itself." Kayla shook her head. "That's just a story, a myth." "Is it?" Sable stood and walked to the cave entrance. Beyond it, the forest stretched dark and wild. Then explain the black wolf that brought you here. That was you. You shifted. I didn't. Sable glanced back at her. That wolf answered your call, not mine. Kayla's breath caught. That's impossible. You keep using that word. Sable's smile was sharp. But here you are, alive, when you should be dead. Kayla opened her mouth, closed it. She had no argument. I can teach you, Sable said quietly, how to wake what's sleeping, how to call the wild, how to become what you were always meant to be. She paused. But I won't lie to you, girl. It'll hurt, and it'll change you. You won't be the same person when it's done. Good, Kayla said. The word came out hard, final. I don't want to be her anymore. Sable studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. We start tomorrow. Tomorrow came too fast and too slow. Sable woke her before dawn, shoved a piece of dried meat into her hand, and dragged her outside. The forest was still dark, the sky just beginning to lighten at the edges. First lesson, Sable said. Listening. Listening to what? Everything. Kayla waited for more. Sable didn't offer it. The old woman just sat down on a fallen log and closed her eyes. After a minute, Kayla sat too. At first she heard nothing but wind, the rustle of branches, her own breathing. Then, slowly, other sounds emerged. The distant trickle of water, the skitter of something small moving through underbrush, a bird's wings cutting through air. Good, Sable murmured. Now deeper. Kayla frowned. What do you mean, deeper? Stop listening with your ears. Listen with your bones. That made no sense, but Kayla closed her eyes and tried. For a long time, nothing happened. Then, a pulse, faint but steady, like a heartbeat, but massive, coming from the ground beneath her. Her eyes snapped open. What is that? The land, Sable said. It's alive. Always has been. You just forgot how to hear it. Kayla stared at the forest floor. I don't understand. You will. Sable stood. Now run. What? Run. As fast as you can. Don't stop until I tell you to. Kayla hesitated. Why, run. The command cracked like a whip. Kayla bolted. She tore through the trees, branches whipping at her face, roots trying to trip her. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she didn't stop. Behind her, she heard Sable's voice. Faster! Kayla pushed harder. Her vision blurred. Her heart felt like it was going to explode. And then something shifted. The world sharpened. Colors became brighter. Smells became distinct. Pine, moss, the musk of a deer somewhere to her left. She could hear everything, every insect, every breath of wind, every heartbeat. Her own heartbeat slowed, steadied. She wasn't tired anymore. She was flying. Stop! Kayla skidded to a halt, panting. She looked back. Sable was 100 yards behind her, arms crossed, smiling. How far did I run? Kayla gasped. 3 miles, in under 10 minutes. Kayla stared at her. That's impossible. Stop saying that word. Sable walked toward her, unhurried. You felt it, didn't you? The shift. I didn't shift. I'm still... Not a full shift. A partial one. Your senses, your strength, the beginning. Sable stopped in front of her. That's what you are, girl. Not weak, not broken, just untrained. Kayla's hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from want. Teach me, she said. Teach me everything. Sable's smile widened. Oh, I will. But the next weeks blurred together. Sable worked her until she collapsed. Every day started before dawn and ended long after dark. Running, climbing, fighting. You're not pack, Sable would say, circling her as Kayla tried to land a punch. You don't fight like one. Pack wolves rely on numbers, coordination. You fight alone. That means you need to be faster, smarter, meaner. Kayla learned to use her environment, to turn trees into shields and rocks into weapons, to move silently, strike hard, disappear before the enemy knew what hit them. She learned to listen to the land's pulse and follow it like a map, to call animals, not control them, Sable insisted, but ask them for help. The first time a hawk landed on her arm, Kayla nearly cried. You're connected, Sable said, watching. The wild recognizes you. It always did. Your pack just trained you to ignore it. At night, Sable told stories about the Thornborn, who walked between human and beast and nature itself, about how they'd been hunted by the pack centuries ago, driven to extinction because they refused to bow to alphas. They were afraid, Sable said, her voice low and bitter. Afraid of anyone who didn't need a pack to survive. So they killed us. Or tried to. You're Thornborn? Kayla asked. I was. Before I got old and slow. Sable poked at the fire. You're the first I've seen in 60 years. Kayla felt something tighten in her chest. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me? Sable raised an eyebrow. You barely believe it now. She was right. But every day Kayla felt it more. The wildness inside her, waking up, growing stronger, and with it came something else. Anger. But 3 months in, Sable declared her ready. For what? Kayla asked. To hunt. They went deep into the thornwood, farther than Kayla had ever gone. The trees here were ancient, their trunks wider than houses. The air smelled different, older. There, Sable whispered, pointing. Kayla followed her gaze. A massive elk stood in a clearing, its antlers like a crown. Take it down, Sable said. No weapons, just you. Kayla's pulse quickened. How? You know how. Stop thinking. Just do. Kayla took a breath, closed her eyes, listened. The land's heartbeat thrummed beneath her feet. The wind whispered directions. The elk's breathing was slow, steady, unaware. Kayla moved. She didn't think about it. Her body knew what to do. She circled downwind, silent as smoke. The elk's head lifted, ears swiveling. Too late. Kayla lunged. Her hands found its neck. Her weight brought it down. It struggled, thrashing, but she held on. Held tight. And then her vision flickered. For just a second, she saw through different eyes, felt antlers on her head, tasted grass. The elk went still. Not dead. Calm. Kayla released it, stumbling back. The elk stood, shook itself, and looked at her. Then it bowed its head and walked away. Kayla stared after it, shaking. What just happened? You connected. Sable's voice was soft, almost reverent. You touched its soul. That's the gift, girl. That's what they feared. Kayla looked down at her hands. They were steady now. She wasn't broken. She never had been. She was just something they didn't understand. And now she was awake. That night, Kayla dreamed of Red Creek, of Rhett's face when he'd rejected her, of the pack's laughter, of Mara screaming her name. She woke with tears on her face and rage in her chest. I want to go back, she told Sable the next morning. The old woman didn't look surprised. I figured you would. They need to know. They need to see. They won't. Sable's voice was flat. You could walk in there with an army, and they'd still call you cursed. Then I'll make them see. How? Kayla met her eyes. By being exactly what they're afraid of. Sable studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. Good. But not yet. Why not? Because you're strong, but you're not ready. Sable stood. One more test. If you pass, I'll take you back myself. What test? Sable's smile widened. The mountain. The mountain was called Widow's Peak. No one went there, not even pack wolves. The stories said it was cursed, that anyone who climbed it never came back. Sable said the stories were true. But not the way they think, she added as they stood at the base, staring up at the jagged black stone. The mountain doesn't kill you, it shows you the truth. And most people can't handle that. What truth? Kayla asked. Who you really are. Stripped bare. No lies. No hiding. Sable's eyes glinted. If you survive, you'll be ready. If not, she shrugged. Kayla swallowed. Have you climbed it? Once, a long time ago. And? I'm still here, aren't I? That wasn't comforting, but Kayla started climbing anyway. The first part was easy, steep, but manageable. Her body was stronger now, her balance better. She moved like water, finding handholds where none seemed to exist. But halfway up, the air changed. It got colder, thinner, and something else, something that made her skin crawl. Voices. At first she thought it was the wind, but no. These were words, clear and cruel, useless, broken, cursed. Kayla froze, her hands slipped. She caught herself, barely, clinging to the rock face. The voices got louder. You don't belong. No one wants you. You should have died. Rhett's voice. The pack's voices. Even Mara, whispering, I can't help you. Kayla's chest tightened. Tears blurred her vision. Stop, she gasped. Stop it. But they didn't stop. They piled on, layer after layer, until she couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her grip failed. She fell. For a second, she was weightless. The voices screamed. The ground rushed up, and then silver eyes. The black wolf appeared out of nowhere, massive and impossible. It caught her mid-fall, its body solid beneath her. Kayla gasped, clutching its fur. The voices stopped. The wolf set her down gently on a ledge. It looked at her, and she understood. The voices aren't real. Only you are. Kayla's breathing slowed. She wiped her eyes. I'm not useless, she whispered. The wolf huffed. I'm not broken. It nudged her. I'm not cursed. The wolf stepped back, waiting. Kayla stood. Her legs shook, but she stood. And she kept climbing. The rest of the climb was silent. No voices, no visions, just rock and sky and her own heartbeat. When she reached the top, the sun was rising. The world stretched out below her. Endless forest, silver rivers, distant mountains. It was beautiful. And she had conquered it. Sable was waiting when she climbed back down. You passed, the old woman said simply. Kayla nodded. She didn't trust her voice. Then it's time. Time for what? Sable's smile was fierce. To go home. The journey back took 5 days. Kayla moved differently now. Her steps were lighter, her senses sharper. She could smell the change in the air when they crossed into Red Creek territory. The scent of too many wolves packed too close together, marking trees and borders like they owned the earth itself. Sable walked beside her, silent as a shadow. The old woman moved through the forest like she was part of it, leaving no tracks, disturbing nothing. We'll camp here tonight, Sable said when they reached a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, smoke rose from the pack's settlement. Kayla could see the central lodge, the gathering circle, the rows of cabins spreading out like rot. Her stomach twisted. I'm not ready. You are. Sable settled onto a flat rock, pulling dried meat from her pack. But ready doesn't mean easy. Kayla sat beside her. The fire they'd built was small, barely enough to warm their hands. What if they don't listen? They won't. Sable tore off a piece of meat with her teeth. Not at first. Then what's the point? The point, Sable said slowly, is that you stop asking for their approval. You walk in there and show them what they threw away. Not because you need them to accept it, because you need to know you can. Kayla stared at the distant smoke. Somewhere down there, Rhett was probably sitting in his alpha's chair, making decisions, pretending he hadn't murdered her with his words. Somewhere, Mara was living her life, maybe thinking about Kayla once in a while before pushing the memory away because it hurt too much. And somewhere, the enforcers who'd thrown her into the snow were laughing. I want them to hurt, Kayla said quietly, the way they hurt me. Sable didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was careful. Revenge is a fire, girl. It'll keep you warm. But if you're not careful, it'll burn you alive. I don't care. You will. Sable met her eyes. When you're standing in the ashes, wondering what you burned down to get there. Kayla looked away. You don't understand. I understand better than you think. Sable's voice went hard. I had a pack once, a mate, a family, and when they found out what I was, they tried to kill me too. Kayla's head snapped around. What did you do? Sable smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I survived. That's all that matters. Did you make them pay? I made them gone. Sable poked at the fire with a stick. Every last one of them. And you know what I felt when it was over? What? Nothing? The word hung in the air like smoke. Just empty. Because revenge doesn't fill the hole, Kayla. It just makes it bigger. Kayla's throat tightened. Then what am I supposed to do? Whatever you want. Just know that once you start down that road, there's no turning back. Sable stood, brushing ash from her hands. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be ugly. She wasn't wrong. They reached the edge of the settlement just after dawn. Kayla's heart hammered against her ribs. Everything looked the same. The worn paths between cabins, the training grounds, the washing lines strung between trees, like nothing had changed, like she'd never existed. Stay close, Sable murmured, and don't shift unless I tell you to. I can't shift, Kayla reminded her. Yes, you can. You just haven't needed to yet. Sable's eyes gleamed. But you will. They walked into the settlement side by side. The first person to see them was a young wolf named Finn. He was hauling water from the creek, his face red from effort. When he spotted Kayla, the bucket slipped from his hands and hit the ground with a wet thud. Holy! He scrambled backward. You're dead. You're supposed to be dead. Disappointed? Kayla asked. Finn's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then he turned and ran, shouting at the top of his lungs. She's back! The cursed one's back! Sable snorted. Subtle. Within minutes, a crowd gathered. They came from everywhere. Cabins, the lodge, the training grounds. Wolves spilled into the main path, staring at Kayla like she was a ghost. Some looked shocked. Some looked angry. A few looked afraid. Good. Kayla? Mara's voice cut through the murmurs. She shoved her way to the front, her face pale. Oh my God, you're alive. We all thought that I'd die? Kayla's voice was flat. That's what you were supposed to think. Mara flinched. I tried to stop them. You know I did. You tried. Kayla stepped closer. And then you let them drag me away. What was I supposed to do? Fight the whole pack? Mara's eyes filled with tears. I'm not like you. I can't. No, you can't. Kayla turned away from her. It hurt less than she expected. Enough. The crowd parted. Rhett strode through, flanked by his enforcers. He looked exactly the same, tall, broad, cold. But something flickered in his eyes when he saw her. Surprise, maybe. Or fear. You were exiled, Rhett said, his voice carried over the crowd. Coming back means death. You know the law. I know a lot of things now, Kayla said, including what you are. And what's that? A coward. The crowd gasped. Someone swore. Rhett's jaw tightened. You rejected me because I was weak, Kayla continued. Her voice was steady, loud. But that was a lie, wasn't it? You rejected me because you were afraid. I'm not afraid of you. But his hand moved to the knife at his belt. You should be. Kayla smiled. It felt like baring teeth. Because I didn't come back to beg. I came back to show you what you threw away. And what's that? A half-shift runt who can't even... Kayla moved. She didn't think about it. 1 second she was standing 10 feet away. The next she was in his face, her hand wrapped around his throat. The crowd scattered, shouting. Rhett's enforcers lunged forward, but Sable was faster. The old woman appeared between them like smoke, her eyes flashing silver. Don't, Sable said quietly. They froze. Kayla tightened her grip. Rhett clawed at her hand, his face turning red. She could feel his pulse racing beneath her fingers. Fast, panicked, weak. I could kill you right now, she whispered. Snap your neck like a dry branch, and no one here could stop me. Rhett's eyes went wide. But I won't. Kayla released him. He stumbled back, gasping. Because I want you to live with this. I want you to know that the girl you called worthless is stronger than you'll ever be. She turned to face the crowd. Every eye was on her. I'm not asking to come back, she said. I don't want your pack. I don't need it. But I'm claiming what's mine. You have nothing here, Rhett rasped, rubbing his throat. You have no rank, no rights, no... I have a name, Kayla's voice rang out. Kayla Thorne, and I'm taking back the land you stole from my bloodline. The crowd erupted. Voices overlapped, angry and confused. What land? She's insane. Someone stop her. Elder Thane pushed through the mob, his face thunderous. What are you talking about, girl? Kayla pointed toward the northern edge of the settlement. The Thornwood. My ancestors held that land for centuries before your pack slaughtered them and took it. That's pack land, Thane snapped. It's been ours for 200 years. Sable stepped forward. After you murdered the Thornborn who lived there, after you burned their homes and salted their graves, Thane's face went white. You're No, you can't be. They're all dead. Not all of us. Sable's smile was sharp as broken glass. And now we're taking it back. You have no claim. I have every claim. Kayla's hands curled into fists. The old laws say any wolf can challenge for territory. You wrote those laws yourselves. The old laws don't apply to exiles, Rhett said. He'd recovered his composure, though his voice was still rough. You're nothing. You have no standing. Then I challenge you for it. The words fell like stones. The crowd went silent. Rhett stared at her. What? I challenge you. Alpha to... She paused. Whatever I am. The Thornwood. Winner takes it. You can't challenge an alpha. You're not even pack. The old laws don't specify pack, Sable said. Just wolf, and she's wolf enough. Thane looked between them, his face hard. This is madness. This is law, Sable shot back. Unless you've forgotten your own rules? Thane's jaw worked. He looked at Rhett. She's right. Technically. Technically? Rhett's voice rose. She's a runt. She can't even shift. Then it should be easy, Kayla said. Unless you're scared. Rhett's eyes blazed. Fine. I accept. But when I win, you're dead. No exile this time. Just dead. When you lose, Kayla said, you give me the Thornwood and you never set foot in it again. Deal. They shook on it. Rhett's hand was cold and damp. Kayla held his gaze until he looked away first. 3 days, Thane announced. The challenge happens at the next full moon. Spread the word. The crowd dispersed slowly, muttering and staring. Mara tried to approach Kayla, but Sable intercepted her. Not now, the old woman said. Mara's face crumpled. I just want to... I said not now. They left Mara standing there, tears streaming down her face. Kayla didn't look back. They camped in the forest that night, far from the settlement. Kayla couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the moment her hand had closed around Rhett's throat, the way his eyes had widened, the fear. It had felt good. Too good. You're thinking too loud, Sable said from across the fire. Kayla glanced at her. How do I beat him? You already know how. He's an alpha. He's bigger, stronger. In a straight fight, maybe. Sable poked at the coals. But you're not going to fight him straight. What does that mean? It means you use what you are. Sable's eyes reflected the firelight. He'll fight like a wolf, teeth and claws and brute force. You fight like the land itself. Kayla frowned. I don't understand. You will, when the time comes. Sable lay back, closing her eyes. Get some sleep. We've got work to do. The next 3 days were brutal. Sable drilled her relentlessly. They practiced in the deep forest, far from prying eyes. Kayla learned to move with the terrain, to use shadows and sounds, and the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. He'll try to intimidate you, Sable said, circling her. Make himself look bigger, louder. Don't react, just wait. Wait for what? For him to make a mistake. Sable lunged. Kayla dodged, barely. Alphas are arrogant. They think their size makes them invincible. Use that. They sparred until Kayla's muscles screamed. Sable didn't hold back. Every hit landed hard, every mistake was punished. You're fast, Sable said, but you're still thinking like prey. Stop running. Start hunting. On the second day, Sable took her to a clearing where a massive oak tree stood. Climb, she ordered. Kayla climbed. When she reached the top, Sable shouted up at her. Now jump! What? You heard me? Jump! Kayla looked down. It was at least 50 feet. I'll break my legs. You won't. Trust yourself. Kayla's heart pounded. This was insane, but she'd trusted Sable this far. She jumped. For a sickening moment, she was weightless. The ground rushed up. She was going to die. Her body shifted midair. Not a full transformation, just a flicker. Her bones reinforced. Her muscles coiled. She hit the ground and rolled, absorbing the impact. She stood up, shaking but unhurt. Sable grinned. See? You can shift. You just needed the right motivation. By the third day, Kayla felt different. Sharper. Hungrier. The forest responded to her now. Birds called warnings when danger approached. Wind shifted to carry her scent away from prey. She wasn't pack. She was something else entirely. And when the full moon rose on the night of the challenge, she was ready. The entire pack turned out. They gathered in the clearing where Kayla had been rejected, forming a circle 3 deep. Torches burned at intervals, casting flickering shadows. The air smelled like smoke and anticipation. Rhett stood in the center, already shifted. His wolf form was massive, easily 300 pounds of muscle and fur and teeth. His eyes glowed amber in the torchlight. He looked like a nightmare. Kayla walked into the circle. She wore simple clothes, no armor, no weapons, just herself. The crowd whispered. She heard fragments. Still can't shift. Going to die. Stupid girl. Thane raised his hand for silence. The challenge is witnessed. The terms are set. Kayla Thorne claims the Thornwood. Alpha Rhett Calder defends it. The fight ends when one yields or dies. He stepped back. Begin. Rhett charged. He moved like lightning, faster than anything that size should be able to move. His jaws gaped wide, aiming for her throat. Kayla didn't move. At the last possible second, she dropped and rolled. Rhett's momentum carried him past her. He skidded, turned, snarled. The crowd roared. Rhett came at her again. This time Kayla was ready. She ducked under his swipe, drove her fist into his ribs. The impact jarred her arm, but Rhett yelped and staggered. Not so invincible after all. They circled each other. Rhett was breathing hard, his eyes narrowed, calculating. You can't win, he growled. His voice was distorted by the shift, half human, half beast. You're nothing. Keep telling yourself that, Kayla said. He lunged again. Kayla dodged, but this time he anticipated it. His claws raked across her side, tearing through cloth and skin. Pain exploded. Blood poured hot down her ribs. Kayla gasped and stumbled. The crowd cheered. Rhett pressed his advantage. He slammed into her, driving her to the ground. His weight crushed her. His jaws snapped inches from her face. Yield, he snarled. Kayla stared up at him. At the same cold eyes that had rejected her, the same arrogant certainty that he was better. And something inside her snapped. The ground beneath them trembled. Rhett froze. His ears flattened. What? The earth erupted. Roots burst from the soil, thick as cables, wrapping around Rhett's legs. He yelped and tried to pull free, but they held fast. More roots emerged, climbing his body, pinning him. The crowd screamed. Someone shouted for Thane. Kayla stood. Her side was bleeding, but she barely felt it. Her vision had sharpened to crystal clarity. She could feel every living thing in the clearing, every tree, every blade of grass, every beating heart. And they all answered to her. What are you? Rhett gasped. The roots had reached his throat. Kayla walked toward him slowly. I'm what you tried to kill. What your ancestors almost wiped out. What you should have left alone. The roots tightened. Rhett choked. Yield, Kayla said. Never. The roots squeezed. Rhett's eyes bulged. His struggles weakened. Kayla felt the life draining from him. It would be so easy. Just a little more pressure. Just a few more seconds. He deserves it, a voice whispered in her head. He tried to kill you. He humiliated you. Finish it. Kayla's hand trembled. She looked at the crowd, at their horrified faces, at Mara, who was crying, at Sable, who watched with unreadable eyes, at Thane, who looked genuinely afraid for the first time. Yield, Kayla said again. Rhett's mouth moved. No sound came out, but she felt it through the roots. I yield. The roots released him. Rhett collapsed, gasping and coughing. Blood trickled from the marks around his throat. The clearing was silent. Kayla turned to Thane. I won. The elder's face was ashen. You, yes, the Thornwood is yours. And my exile? Thane looked at Rhett, who was still on the ground struggling to breathe. Lifted. You have the right to come and go as you please. I don't want that right. Kayla's voice carried across the clearing. I don't want anything from this pack. Just stay out of my land, all of you. She walked toward the edge of the circle. The crowd parted like water. As she passed Mara, her former friend reached out. Kayla, wait. Kayla stopped, looked at her. Mara's eyes were red, her face streaked with tears. I'm sorry. For everything. I should have. You should have. Kayla's voice was quiet. But you didn't, and that's something you have to live with. She kept walking. Sable fell into step beside her. They left the settlement behind, walking into the forest, into the thornwood, into home. Behind them, the pack watched in silence as Kayla Thorne disappeared into the shadows. And every single one of them knew that the girl they'd thrown away had become something they could never control again. The forest swallowed them whole within minutes. The sounds of the settlement, the murmurs, the shocked gasps, the frantic conversations faded until there was nothing but wind and leaves and their own footsteps. Kayla's side burned. Blood had soaked through her shirt, sticky and warm. Each breath sent a fresh spike of pain through her ribs. But she kept walking. Stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant feeling everything she'd just pushed down to survive that fight. "You're bleeding," Sable said after they'd gone about half a mile. "I know. We should stop. Clean it." "Not yet." Kayla's jaw was tight. "Not until we're deeper in." Sable studied her for a moment, then nodded. They walked in silence for another 20 minutes, winding through increasingly dense undergrowth. The trees here were older, their trunks massive and gnarled. Moss hung from branches like curtains. The air smelled different, wilder, untamed. Finally, Sable stopped beside a stream. "Here, sit." Kayla's legs gave out before she could argue. She collapsed onto a fallen log, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the fight was draining away, leaving nothing but pain and a bone-deep weariness. Sable knelt beside the stream, soaking a piece of cloth in the cold water. "Lift your shirt." Kayla obeyed. The fabric stuck to the wound, and peeling it away felt like tearing off skin. She hissed through her teeth. The gashes were deep, 4 parallel cuts from Rhett's claws, starting just below her ribcage and curving around to her back. Blood still oozed from them, dark and thick. "Could be worse," Sable said, wringing out the cloth. "Could be better, though." "Helpful." "Wasn't trying to be helpful, just honest." Sable pressed the cold cloth against the wounds. Kayla jerked, biting back a yelp. "Hold still." The old woman worked quickly, cleaning away blood and dirt with efficient, practiced movements. It hurt like hell, but Kayla forced herself to stay still. She'd survived worse. She'd survived this. "You should have killed him," Sable said quietly. Kayla looked at her. "What?" "Rhett, you had him. The roots would have crushed his throat in another 10 seconds. Sable didn't look up from her work. "But you stopped." "He yielded." "So?" "He wouldn't have shown you the same mercy." Kayla's hands clenched. "I know that." "Then why?" Sable finally met her eyes. "Why let him live?" Kayla opened her mouth, closed it. She didn't have a good answer. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't want to say it out loud. "Because," she said slowly, "I didn't want to become like them." Sable's expression softened slightly. "That's the difference between revenge and justice, I suppose." "Is it justice if he's still alive? Is it revenge if you still feel empty?" Sable countered. She pulled a small jar from her pack, some kind of salve that smelled like pine and something sharper. "This is going to sting." It did more than sting. The moment the salve touched the wounds, Kayla's vision went white. She grabbed the log beneath her, wood splintering under her grip. "Breathe," Sable instructed. "It's working. Just breathe through it." Kayla forced air in and out of her lungs. Slowly, the burning sensation faded to a manageable throb. When she looked down, the bleeding had stopped. The edges of the wounds were already starting to close. "What is that stuff?" "Old recipe. Helps wounds heal faster." Sable capped the jar and tucked it away. "You'll have scars, though. Can't avoid that." "I don't care about scars." "You say that now." Sable stood, brushing dirt from her knees. "But scars have a way of reminding you, whether you want them to or not." They made camp there, beside the stream. Sable built a small fire while Kayla sat and tried not to think about what had just happened. But her mind kept circling back to the same images. Rhett's face, when the roots had wrapped around him. The terror in his eyes. The crowd's horror. Mara's tears. The power that had surged through her when she'd called the earth itself to fight for her. That last one scared her most of all. "It felt good," Kayla said suddenly. "When I had him. When he was helpless, and I could have—" She swallowed. "It felt good. What does that make me?" Sable poked at the fire with a stick. Human. I'm not human. Not really. Human enough to know the difference between justice and cruelty. Human enough to choose. Sable looked at her across the flames. Power doesn't corrupt, girl. It reveals. You had the chance to be a monster, and you chose not to be. That's what matters. But I wanted to be. For a second, I really wanted to watch him die. Of course you did. He hurt you, humiliated you, tried to kill you. Sable's voice was matter-of-fact. Wanting revenge is natural. Acting on it is where you choose who you are. Kayla stared into the fire. What if I choose wrong next time? Then you deal with the consequences, same as everyone else. Sable lay back against her pack. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start building. Building what? A life. In the Thornwood. It's yours now, remember? Sable's eyes gleamed. Time to figure out what you're going to do with it. Kayla didn't sleep well that night. Her dreams were fragmented, flashes of Rhett's amber eyes, of roots breaking through earth, of Mara's pleading face. She woke several times, gasping, her hand instinctively going to her side where the wounds ached. Dawn came slowly. Gray light filtered through the canopy, turning everything soft and colorless. Sable was already awake, crouched by the stream with her hands in the water. She looked up when Kayla stirred. How do you feel? Like I got mauled by an alpha wolf. Accurate. Sable stood, shaking water from her hands. Can you walk? Kayla tested her weight. Her side protested, but it was bearable. Yeah. Good. We've got ground to cover. They spent the day exploring the Thornwood. It was vast, easily 10 square miles of old-growth forest, untouched by pack development. The trees here were ancient, some of them easily 1,000 years old. Their roots ran deep, creating a network beneath the soil that Kayla could feel humming with life. This was Thornborn land for centuries, Sable explained as they walked. Your ancestors built here, lived here, died here. She ran her hand along a massive oak trunk, and the pack burned it all when they came through, tried to erase every trace. Did they succeed? Almost. Sable stopped beside what looked like a pile of moss-covered stones, but when Kayla looked closer, she saw the pattern. Foundation stones. This was a house once, one of many. Kayla knelt, brushing moss away. Beneath it, the stone was carved with symbols, spirals, and crescents and shapes she didn't recognize. What do they mean? Protection, growth, connection to the land. Sable crouched beside her. The Thornborn didn't just live in the forest, they were part of it. That's what made them dangerous to the packs. Why? Because they couldn't be controlled? Because they didn't need the pack structure to survive. Alphas, betas, omegas, that whole hierarchy depends on everyone agreeing it matters. But Thornborn? Sable smiled grimly. We proved you could be powerful without bowing to anyone. That scared them. Kayla stood looking around at the ruins. She could almost see it. Houses among the trees, people moving through the forest like they belonged there. Children playing, fires burning. And then pack wolves coming through with torches and teeth. How many died? She asked quietly. Hundreds. Over the course of a decade, they hunted us down. Killed anyone who showed the signs. Sable's voice was flat. By the time I was born, there were maybe 20 of us left. By the time I was your age, I was alone. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Sable's eyes flashed. They took everything from us because we were different. Because we threatened their precious order, and they've spent 2 centuries pretending we never existed. Kayla's hands curled into fists. We're going to change that. We? You said there were signs, ways to tell if someone's Thornborn. Kayla turned to face her fully. What if there are others? People like me, stuck in packs, thinking they're broken. Sable studied her for a long moment. That's a dangerous thought. Good. A slow smile spread across the old woman's face. You know what you're suggesting? Finding them means going into pack territories, identifying them, convincing them to leave everything they know. Yes. Most packs would see that as an act of war. Let them. Kayla's voice was hard. I claimed this land. I'm going to fill it with people who actually belong here. People the packs threw away because they didn't fit. Sable laughed, a real laugh, full and genuine. You've got fire in you, girl. I like it. She sobered slightly. But it won't be easy, and it won't be safe. Nothing worth doing ever is. They spent the rest of the day mapping out the Thornwood's boundaries. Sable showed Kayla the old marker stones, mostly buried now beneath years of leaf litter and growth. They walked the perimeter, and with each step, Kayla felt the land responding to her presence. Trees bent slightly as she passed. Small animals watched from the underbrush, unafraid. The ground itself seemed to hum beneath her feet. This was hers now, really, truly hers, and she was going to protect it. That night they made camp near the center of the Thornwood, in a clearing where the ruins of what must have been the main lodge still stood. The foundation was mostly intact, and 3 walls still rose partway toward the sky, covered in vines and moss. "We'll rebuild here," Kayla said, running her hand along the old stone. "Make it livable again." "That'll take months," Sable pointed out. "Then we start tomorrow." But tomorrow came with complications. Kayla woke to voices. Human voices coming from the eastern edge of the clearing. She was on her feet instantly, ignoring the protest from her healing wounds. Sable was already awake, crouched low behind a fallen log. She gestured for Kayla to stay quiet. 3 figures emerged from the trees. 2 men and a woman, all wearing Red Creek colors. Kayla recognized one of them immediately. Garrett, the enforcer who'd thrown her into the snow. The scar across his mouth twisted as he talked. Sure, this is the right place?" he was saying. "Elder Thane's instructions were clear," the woman replied. She was tall, with short-cropped hair and hard eyes. "Survey the Thornwood. Report back on what she's doing." "Spying on her already?" The third man laughed. "The challenge was 2 days ago. Can't Rhett give it a rest?" "This isn't about Rhett," the woman snapped. "It's about the pack's security. We need to know if she's planning something." "Like what?" "She won the land. That's it." "Is it?" Garrett's voice was low. "You saw what she did. Those roots, that wasn't normal." "Nothing about her is normal," the woman muttered. They were getting closer to the camp. Another 30 seconds and they'd see the fire. Kayla stepped out from behind the log. All 3 froze. "Looking for something?" Kayla asked. Garrett's hand went to his knife. "You." "This is my land. You're trespassing." Kayla kept her voice level, but her muscles were coiled tight. "Ready." "We have orders," the woman started. "I don't care about your orders." Kayla took a step forward. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I make you leave." "You can't threaten pack enforcers," Garrett snarled. "I'm not threatening. I'm promising." Kayla's eyes didn't waver. 10, 9, 8. "This is ridiculous. 7, 6. The ground beneath them trembled slightly. The woman's eyes widened. "Move. Now." They backed away, slowly at first, then faster. Garrett shot Kayla one last venomous look before they disappeared into the trees. Kayla waited until she couldn't hear them anymore before letting out the breath she'd been holding. Sable emerged from the shadows. "They'll be back." "I know. With more of them next time." "I know that too." "And you're still planning to stay?" Kayla turned to look at the ruined lodge, at the ancient trees surrounding it, at the land that was finally, truly hers. "Yes," she said. "This is my home now, and I'm not running anymore." Sable nodded slowly. "Then we'd better get ready, because a storm's coming." She was right. Over the next few days, the signs became impossible to ignore. Pack wolves appeared at the Thornwood's borders regularly, never crossing, but always watching. Kayla could feel their eyes on her whenever she ventured near the edge of her territory. Thane sent a messenger on the 5th day. A young wolf named Cole, barely out of adolescence, who looked terrified the entire time he delivered his message. "The Elder Council requests a meeting," Cole stammered, "to discuss the terms of the Thornwood's independence." "Terms?" Kayla raised an eyebrow. "I won the land. There are no terms to discuss. They just want to talk. Make sure there's no misunderstanding." "Tell them I'll think about it." Cole nodded and fled. "They're scared," Sable observed. "Good. Scared people are dangerous. So are we." Sable grinned. "Let them worry. It'll keep them honest." But Kayla couldn't shake the feeling that something was building. The pack had accepted her victory. They'd had to, with so many witnesses. But acceptance and approval were different things. She was proven right a week after the challenge. Kayla was checking the southern boundary when she heard it, A scream, high and terrified, coming from just beyond the marker stones. She ran. The source was a girl, maybe 16 or 17, being dragged through the underbrush by two pack wolves. Her clothes were torn, her face bloody. "Stop!" Kayla's voice cracked like thunder. The wolves froze, turned. One of them sneered. "This doesn't concern you. She's pack business. She's on my land. She's 2 feet outside your precious border, and she's a criminal." The girl sobbed. "Please, I didn't. They're lying." "Shut up," the second wolf snarled, shaking her roughly. Kayla's vision went red. "Let her go." "Or what?" Kayla didn't answer with words. The earth erupted beneath the wolves' feet. Roots shot up, wrapping around their legs, their waists, their throats. Both wolves dropped the girl and scrabbled at the roots, panic flooding their faces. Kayla walked forward slowly. "I said, let her go." The roots tightened. We will just..." One of them choked out. The roots released them. They scrambled backward, gasping, then turned and ran. Kayla knelt beside the girl. "Are you hurt?" The girl stared at her with wide, terrified eyes. "You're her, the cursed one." "Not cursed, just different." Kayla helped her sit up. "What's your name?" "Iris." The girl winced, touching her split lip. They accused me of..." "Doesn't matter what they said." Kayla examined her injuries. Cuts and bruises, but nothing fatal. "Can you walk?" Iris nodded shakily. "Good. Come with me." "Where?" "Somewhere they can't touch you." Kayla brought her back to the camp. Sable took one look at the girl and immediately started preparing medicine. "They'll come for her," the old woman said quietly. "Whatever she did, or didn't do, the pack won't just let it go." "Then they can try." Kayla met her eyes. "But she's under my protection now." Iris looked between them, confusion and hope warring on her face. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I know what it's like," Kayla said simply. "To be accused, to be helpless, to have nowhere to run." Tears spilled down Iris's cheeks. "Thank you." As Sable tended to the girl's wounds, Kayla walked to the edge of the clearing and stared toward Red Creek territory. This was it, the line she'd just crossed. Taking in someone the pack wanted was an act of defiance, maybe even an act of war, but she'd meant what she said. The Thornwood was hers, and anyone who needed sanctuary would find it here. Let the pack come. She was ready. The sky above was darkening, heavy clouds rolling in from the west. In the distance, thunder rumbled. A storm was definitely coming, and Kayla Thorne would meet it head on. The storm came at midnight. Not rain this time, wolves. Kayla heard them before the attack, the rustle of undergrowth, the careful placement of paws trying to be silent. She'd been sitting by the fire, unable to sleep, watching Iris's chest rise and fall in fitful rest. The girl had finally passed out an hour ago, exhausted from crying and fear. Sable's eyes snapped open across the flames. "How many?" Kayla closed her eyes, reaching out with her senses the way Sable had taught her. The earth whispered back. 8, maybe 10, coming from the east. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Sable stood, joints cracking. "Wake the girl. Get her somewhere safe." "Where safe?" "Deeper in. There's a cave about half a mile north. Take her there and stay put." "I'm not running," Kayla said. "I'm not asking you to run. I'm asking you to protect her while I deal with this." Sable's eyes flashed silver. "They want to fight? I'll give them one they'll remember." "You can't take 10 wolves alone. I've taken more." Sable smiled, and there was nothing kind in it. "Now move." Kayla wanted to argue, but Iris stirred, whimpering. The girl's eyes were still closed, but she was trembling. Nightmares, probably, or the sound of approaching danger filtering into her unconscious mind. "Fine," Kayla said. "But if you die, I'm bringing you back just to kill you myself." "Deal." Kayla shook Iris awake as gently as she could. The girl came to with a gasp, eyes wild. "It's me," Kayla said. "We have to move. Now." "What's happening?" "Pack wolves. Coming for you." Kayla pulled her to her feet. "Can you run?" Iris nodded, though her legs looked like they might give out any second. They ran. Kayla led her north, away from the approaching wolves, deeper into the thornwood where the trees grew so thick the moonlight barely penetrated. Behind them, she heard shouting, then screams, then the wet sounds of violence. Sable was keeping her promise. The cave was exactly where Sable said it would be, a narrow opening in a hillside, hidden behind a curtain of roots. Kayla pushed Iris inside first, then followed, pulling the roots closed behind them like a door. Inside it was pitch black and smelled like damp earth. "Stay quiet," Kayla whispered. "No matter what you hear. Understand?" "I'm scared," Iris breathed. "I know. Me too." They huddled together in the darkness, listening. For a long time there was nothing but their own breathing and the distant sounds of fighting. Then those stopped too. Silence pressed down like a weight. Minutes crawled by. Kayla's muscles were locked tight, ready to spring. Every small sound made her flinch, a branch cracking, wind through leaves, something small scurrying past the cave entrance. Then footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, coming closer. Kayla put her hand over Iris's mouth before the girl could make a sound. The footsteps stopped, right outside the cave. "I know you're in there." The voice was male, rough, not Sable. "Come out. Make this easy." Kayla didn't move. "The old woman's dead," the voice continued. "Took 4 of my wolves with her, the crazy witch, but she's done. You're alone now. No point hiding." Kayla's chest tightened. Sable. "No, she couldn't be. If you come out now, we'll make it quick," the man said. "The girl, too. Clean deaths, no suffering. That's more mercy than you deserve." Kayla's hand dropped from Iris's mouth. She felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not fear, rage. "Stay here," she whispered to Iris. "Don't!" Iris grabbed her arm. "He said she's dead. If you go out there—" "I said stay here." Kayla pushed through the roots before Iris could stop her. Outside, 3 wolves waited. The speaker was a massive brute with a scarred face and dead eyes. The other 2 flanked him, younger, but no less dangerous. "There she is," Scarface said. "The cursed alpha killer herself." "Where's Sable?" Kayla's voice was flat. "Bleeding out about a quarter-mile that way." He jerked his thumb south. "Tough old bird. Put up a hell of a fight, but old is old, you know. Can't outrun time." "If she's dead, you're dead." Scarface laughed. "Big words from a little girl who can't even shift. What are you going to do? Talk us to death?" Something like that. Kayla didn't wait for them to move first. She slammed her palm against the ground and pulled. The earth answered like it had been waiting. Roots exploded from the soil, faster and thicker than before. They wrapped around the 2 younger wolves before they could even yelp, dragging them down, crushing them into the dirt. Bones snapped like dry kindling. Scarface lunged at her, shifting mid-leap into a massive gray wolf. His jaws snapped shut inches from her throat. Kayla threw herself sideways, rolled, came up already moving. The wolf spun, faster than something that size should be, and caught her across the ribs with his claws. Fresh pain bloomed. Blood sprayed. Kayla staggered but didn't fall. She couldn't fall. Not now. The wolf circled, growling low. His eyes were calculating. He'd seen what she could do and wasn't making the same mistake as his packmates. "You can't win," he snarled. His voice was distorted, half human. "You're hurt, tired, and there's more coming, dozens more." "Good," Kayla gasped. "I'm still hungry." She reached for the earth again, but this time the wolf was ready. He lunged before the roots could emerge, slamming into her full force. They went down together, rolling through dirt and leaves. His teeth found her shoulder, bit down. Kayla screamed. The wolf shook his head, tearing flesh, and Kayla's vision went white with agony. She felt his jaw clench tighter, grinding against bone. This was it. This was how she died. No, not like this. Not ever. Something inside Kayla broke open, not painfully, but like a dam finally giving way. Power flooded through her, raw and wild and ancient. Her body convulsed, every muscle seizing. The wolf yelped and tried to pull back, but it was too late. Kayla's body shifted, not into a wolf, into something else entirely. Her bones cracked and reformed. Her skin rippled. Her senses exploded outward until she could feel every living thing for miles. Every tree, every blade of grass, every heartbeat. And she was hungry. The wolf released her and scrambled backward, his eyes wide with terror. "What the—" Kayla stood. She was bigger now, taller. Her hands had elongated into something between human and beast, tipped with claws that gleamed black in the moonlight. Her skin had darkened, covered in patterns that looked like bark and shadow. Her eyes, she couldn't see them, but she felt them burning silver. The wolf turned and ran. Kayla caught him in 3 strides. She grabbed him by the scruff and lifted, ignoring his yelps and struggles. Up close, she could see the terror in his eyes. Smell it. You said Sable was dead, Kayla said. Her voice came out wrong, layered, echoing, like multiple voices speaking as one. She is. I swear, then you're useless to me. She threw him, hard. The wolf hit a tree 30 feet away with a wet crunch and didn't get up. Kayla stood there, breathing hard, staring at her hands, at the claws, at the strange dark patterns covering her skin. What was she? Kayla? She spun. Iris stood at the cave entrance, eyes huge, face pale. Stay back, Kayla said quickly. What happened to you? I don't know. Kayla looked down at herself again. Already the transformation was fading, her body shrinking back to normal size, the patterns disappearing, the claws retracting. Within seconds, she was herself again. Just Kayla, bloody and hurt and human-shaped. She swayed, suddenly exhausted. Iris caught her before she fell. You're bleeding everywhere. Sable, Kayla gasped. Have to find. You can barely stand. Don't care? She pushed away from Iris and staggered south, following the path Scarface had indicated. Every step was agony. Her shoulder was a mess of torn flesh, and the wounds on her side had reopened. Blood soaked her clothes, dripped onto the ground, but she kept moving. She found Sable 50 yards from the camp. The old woman was slumped against a tree, surrounded by bodies. 4 wolves lay dead around her, their throats torn out, their bodies twisted at wrong angles. Sable's hands were covered in blood, theirs and hers. Too much hers. No, Kayla breathed. She dropped to her knees beside her. No, no, no. Sable's eyes opened, just barely. Took you long enough? Don't talk. Save your strength. Kayla pressed her hands against the worst wound, a gaping hole in Sable's abdomen where claws had torn through. Blood pulsed between her fingers, hot and thick. Not gonna make it, girl, Sable said. Her voice was faint. We both know it. Shut up. You're fine. Kayla's voice cracked. You can't die. I don't know how to do this without you. Yes, you do. Sable coughed, blood speckling her lips. You just proved it. I felt it. The shift. You did it. I don't know what I did. You became what you are. Sable's hand found Kayla's, gripped weakly. Finally. Took you long enough. Tears blurred Kayla's vision. Please, tell me how to help you. You can't. Sable smiled. It was small and sad. But you can listen. One last time. I'm listening? The Thornborn aren't extinct. I lied. Sable coughed again, harder. There are others. Hidden, scattered, living in packs thinking they're broken, just like you were. Kayla's breath caught. Where? Everywhere. You'll know them when you see them. The ones who don't quite fit, who can't shift right, who hear things others don't. Sable's grip tightened. Find them. Bring them here. Build what we couldn't. I will, I promise. And Kayla? Sable's eyes focused on her with effort. Don't trust the packs, any of them. They'll smile and offer peace, but they're lying. They want you dead, all of you. Remember that. I will. Good girl. Sable's eyes started to close. Wait. Kayla grabbed her face. Don't go, please. I need you. No, you don't. Sable's smile widened slightly. You never did. You just needed to believe it yourself. Her hand went limp. Her chest stopped moving. Kayla sat there, holding her, unable to process it. This couldn't be happening. Sable was supposed to be invincible. She'd survived everything, outlived everyone, but now she was just gone. No, Kayla whispered, then louder. No! The word tore out of her like a scream. The trees around them shuddered. The ground trembled. Birds exploded from branches, shrieking. Iris appeared, limping through the undergrowth. She took one look at Sable and stopped. Oh no. Kayla couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't think. We have to go, Iris said gently. More will come. We can't. I'm not leaving her. We have to. She'd want you to live. You don't know what she'd want, Kayla snapped. You're right. I don't. Iris knelt beside her. But I know she died protecting you. Don't make it meaningless. The words hit like a punch. Kayla looked down at Sable's face. Peaceful now, almost like she was sleeping. I'm sorry, Kayla whispered, for everything, for not being ready sooner, for... She knew, Iris said quietly. I could see it. The way she looked at you. She was proud. Kayla nodded, not trusting her voice. She reached out and closed Sable's eyes, then stood on shaking legs. They buried her there beneath the tree. It took hours digging with their hands in broken branches. Kayla's wounds screamed with every movement, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. When it was done, Kayla stood over the fresh grave and tried to think of something to say. Some words that would make this okay. But there were no words, so she just stood there, silent, and let the forest say goodbye for her. The wind picked up, rustling through leaves. Birds sang. Somewhere distant, a wolf howled. Not a pack wolf, something else, saying farewell to one of their own. They made it back to the ruined lodge just before dawn. Kayla's body was failing. She'd lost too much blood, pushed herself too hard. She collapsed the moment they crossed the threshold, her legs simply giving out. Iris caught her, barely. Stay with me. Come on. Tired, Kayla mumbled. I know, but you can't sleep yet, not until I've stopped the bleeding. Iris worked with surprising competence, tearing strips from her own clothes to make bandages, cleaning wounds with water from the stream. Her hands shook the whole time, but she didn't stop. Where'd you learn this? Kayla asked through gritted teeth. My mother was a healer, before... Iris trailed off, her face darkening. Before they killed her. They? The pack. Red Creek. Iris's jaw tightened. She was helping people outside the pack, humans, outcasts. They said it was forbidden, that she was breaking pack law. She tied off a bandage with more force than necessary. So they executed her, made it look like an accident. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just get better, so we can make them pay. Kayla managed a weak smile. I like you. Don't start liking people, Iris muttered. They just die on you. Fair point. Kayla slept for 3 days. When she finally woke, her body was stiff and sore, but the wounds had closed. Not completely healed. She'd have scars for sure, but no longer bleeding. Iris was sitting by the fire, sharpening a stick into a crude spear. She looked up when Kayla stirred. You're alive, Iris said. Surprised? A little. Iris set down the stick. You lost a lot of blood, I thought. She shook her head. Doesn't matter. You're awake now. Kayla sat up slowly, testing her body. Everything hurt, but it was manageable. How long? 3 days. I've been keeping watch. No one's come. They will. I know. Iris handed her a water skin. Drink. You're dehydrated. Kayla drank gratefully. The water was cold and sweet, probably from the stream. When she finished, she looked at Iris properly for the first time. The girl was young, maybe 17 at most. Dark hair, pale skin, too thin frame, but her eyes were old, haunted. Why were they dragging you? Kayla asked. What did they accuse you of? Iris looked away. Theft. Did you do it? Yes. No hesitation. I stole medicine from the pack stores for a human family living near the border. Their daughter was sick, dying. The pack wouldn't help them because they weren't wolves. So you did. So I did. Iris met her eyes. And I'd do it again, even knowing what it cost. Kayla nodded slowly. You're Thornborn. Iris blinked. What? That thing Sable told me about. People who don't fit in packs, who care about more than just pack hierarchy and power. Kayla leaned forward. Can you shift? Not really. I can feel it sometimes. Like something's there trying to come out, but it never does. Not completely. Iris looked down at her hands. They said I was defective, weak, that I'd never be a real wolf. They were wrong. You're not defective, you're just not pack. Then what am I? Something better. Over the next week, more came. First was a man named Darren, late 30s, scarred and limping. He'd been exiled from a pack 2 territories over for refusing to fight in a territorial war he thought was pointless. He'd heard rumors of a place in the Thornwood where outcasts could find sanctuary. Then came twins, Lena and Marcus, barely 20. They'd been caught helping humans during a harsh winter, giving them food and shelter. Their pack had beaten them and cast them out. Then an older woman named Greta, who'd lost her mate and refused to take another when the Alpha ordered it. Then a boy, couldn't have been more than 15, who'd never spoken his name. He just showed up one night, thin and terrified, with whip marks on his back. They all had the same story, more or less. Didn't fit, didn't obey, didn't accept the pack hierarchy as absolute truth, and they'd all paid for it. Kayla took them all in. The Thornwood became a haven for the broken and cast aside. They built shelters from fallen logs and stone, hunted together, shared what little they had. It wasn't much, but it was theirs, and it was growing. By the end of the second week, there were 12 of them. By the end of the third, 20. The packs noticed. Kayla was repairing the lodge's wall when Mara appeared at the edge of the clearing. Her former friend looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, face gaunt, clothes disheveled. She stopped at the boundary line, not crossing, and called out, "Kayla, I need to talk to you." Everyone stopped working. Hands moved to weapons, makeshift spears, sharpened stakes, rocks. They'd all learned to be ready. "Stand down," Kayla said. She set down her tools and walked toward the boundary. "What do you want, Mara?" "To warn you." Mara's eyes were desperate. "Please, just listen." "I'm listening." "The pack, all the packs in the region, they're meeting tomorrow night to discuss you." "Discuss?" "To decide what to do about the Thornwood, about you taking in their exiles." Mara stepped closer to the line, though she still didn't cross. "They're calling it an insurgency, a threat to pack stability. We're not threatening anyone. We're just existing." "You're existing wrong." Mara's voice broke. "You're proving that wolves don't need packs to survive. That's the worst threat there is." Kayla felt cold. "What are they planning?" "I don't know, but Rhett's been talking about a united front, about ending this before it spreads." Mara's hands twisted together. "Please, you have to leave. Take everyone and go somewhere else. Somewhere they can't find you." "No." "Kayla, this is my land. I won it fairly. And I'm not abandoning people who have nowhere else to go." "Then you're all going to die," Mara's voice rose to a shout. "They have hundreds of wolves. You have what, 20, 30? You can't fight them all." "Watch me." Mara stared at her, tears streaming down her face. "Why are you being so stubborn?" "Because if I run now, I'll be running forever." Kayla's voice was hard. "This is where I make my stand. This is where we all do." "We?" "Everyone the packs threw away. Everyone they called broken or weak or wrong." Kayla gestured behind her to the people watching. "We're building something here, and if the packs want to destroy it, they'll have to go through me first." Mara sobbed. "I don't want you to die." "Then help us." "I can't." "You mean you won't?" "It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple," Kayla said. "You either stand with them or you stand with us. There's no middle ground anymore." Mara looked at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away, shoulders shaking. Kayla watched her go and felt nothing. That night, she called everyone together. They gathered in the lodge, all 28 of them now, crowded into the partially rebuilt space. Faces flickered in firelight, young and old, scared and angry, all looking at her. "I'm not going to lie to you," Kayla said. "The packs are coming, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. But they're coming." Murmurs rippled through the group. "We can fight," Darren said. "We're not helpless." "No, we're not. But we're outnumbered." Kayla looked at each of them in turn. "If you want to leave, now's the time. I won't judge you, I won't stop you. This isn't your fight." "Yes, it is," Lena said. The young woman stood, her twin brother rising beside her. "This is all our fight. They cast us out, treated us like garbage. This is our chance to prove them wrong." "We stay," Marcus added. "We fight," Greta said, her old voice firm. Around the room, heads nodded. One by one, they voiced agreement. Kayla felt something warm bloom in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or just gratitude that she wasn't alone anymore. Then we prepare, she said. We fortify. We train. And when they come, we show them what happens when you underestimate the broken. They worked through the night. Trenches were dug around the lodge, sharpened stakes were driven into the ground, traps were set along the paths leading in. Every weapon they could make, spears, clubs, slings, was crafted and stockpiled. It wasn't much, but it was something. Kayla walked the perimeter as dawn broke, checking defenses, making sure everything was ready. She found the nameless boy sitting by one of the trenches, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" she asked. He shook his head. Kayla sat beside him. They were quiet for a while, watching the sky lighten. "I'm scared," the boy said finally. His voice was barely a whisper. "Me too." He looked at her, surprised. "Really?" "Really, but being scared doesn't mean being helpless." Kayla put a hand on his shoulder. "You're stronger than you think. We all are." The boy nodded slowly. "Will we win?" Kayla wanted to lie, to tell him everything would be fine, but he deserved the truth. "I don't know," she said, "but we'll fight like hell trying." The packs came 3 days later. Kayla smelled them first, the scent of too many wolves, too much aggression. She stood at the lodge entrance and watched them emerge from the trees. Dozens, maybe 100, from 4 different packs, judging by the colors they wore. Rhett led them. Of course he did. They stopped at the boundary line, a massive wall of fur and teeth and hatred. Rhett stepped forward, still in human form. "Kayla Thorne, you're surrounded. Surrender now, and we'll make it quick." Kayla walked out to meet him, stopping a few feet from the boundary. Behind her, her people gathered, 28 against 100. "No," she said simply. Rhett's face darkened. "You can't win this." "Maybe not, but you'll bleed for every inch. We don't want to kill you. Just disband this rebellion. Send these people back to their packs." "They have no packs. You made sure of that when you threw them away. They're criminals, traitors, defective." "They're survivors," Kayla cut him off. "And this is their home now. You want it? Come take it." Rhett's eyes flashed amber. "So be it." He shifted. Behind him, 100 wolves did the same. The attack began. They came like a wave, crashing against the defenses. Wolves fell into trenches, impaled on stakes, caught in snares. But there were so many. Kayla's people fought back with everything they had. Darren stood at the main entrance, swinging a massive club, crushing skulls. The twins fought back to back, moving like they shared one mind. Greta was on the roof, dropping rocks on anyone who got too close. Iris stayed with the children, the few they had, protecting them in the deepest part of the lodge. And Kayla let herself go. She called on the power that had awakened when Scarface had tried to kill her. Her body shifted, growing, darkening, becoming something between human and beast and force of nature. And she tore through them. Wolves scattered when they saw her. Some ran, some fought. None survived contact. She was unstoppable. But there were too many. For every wolf she killed, 2 more took its place. Her people were falling. Darren went down with his throat torn out. Lena screamed as claws ripped across her back. They were losing. Kayla stood in the center of it all, drenched in blood, surrounded by bodies, and realized the truth. She couldn't save them. Not like this. So she did the only thing she could think of. She reached down into the earth itself, past the roots and stone, into the ancient heart of the forest. And she pulled. The thornwood answered, the ground erupted, trees came alive, their branches sweeping wolves aside like toys. Roots burst through soil, wrapping around legs, necks, dragging attackers under. The earth itself seemed to rise up in defense of those who lived there. Wolves screamed, fled, died. Within minutes, it was over. The survivors ran, disappearing into the trees, leaving their dead behind. Rhett was the last to go. He stared at Kayla with pure terror before shifting and bolting. Kayla stood there, shaking, barely able to remain upright. Around her, the forest settled, returning to normal. The silence was deafening. Then she heard crying. Iris emerged from the lodge, supporting Marcus. The boy was bleeding from a dozen wounds, his sister's body cradled in his arms. Lena was dead. Kayla fell to her knees. They'd won, but the cost was too high. They buried 7 that first night. Lena, Darren, 3 others whose names Kayla barely knew because they'd only arrived days before. 2 children who'd been caught in the crossfire when a wolf broke through the back wall. Marcus didn't speak. He just dug graves with his bare hands until they bled, then sat beside his sisters and stared at nothing. Kayla wanted to comfort him, wanted to say something that would make it hurt less, but there were no words for this kind of loss. So she just sat beside him in silence while the others worked. Greta appeared after midnight, her face smudged with ash and dirt. "We've counted the bodies. 43 wolves dead on our land, maybe a dozen more that crawled off to die somewhere else." "And us?" Kayla asked, though she already knew. 7 dead, 18 wounded. Some won't make it through the week." Greta's voice was flat, empty. "We lost 1/3 of our people, Kayla." "I know. They'll come back, stronger next time." "I know that too." Greta sat down on Marcus's other side. For a long time, none of them spoke. Then Marcus said, so quietly Kayla almost missed it, "We need more." "More what?" Kayla asked. "People. Fighters. Thornborn." He looked at her, and his eyes were hollow. "Lena died because we were outnumbered, because we didn't have enough bodies between us and them. That can't happen again." "Where am I supposed to find more Thornborn? Sable said they were scattered, hidden. Then we find them. Hunt for them the way the packs hunted us." Marcus stood, brushing dirt from his hands. "We go into pack territories. Identify the ones who don't fit. Get them out before the packs kill them." "That's suicide," Greta said. "Walking into pack land after what we just did? They'll tear you apart." "Maybe." Marcus's jaw set. "But doing nothing means waiting here to die. I'd rather take the fight to them." Kayla looked at him. Really looked. The boy who'd arrived with his sister 3 weeks ago, shy and uncertain, was gone. In his place stood someone harder, angrier, someone who'd learned what loss tasted like. "You're right," Kayla said. Greta's head snapped toward her. "You can't be serious." "I am. We can't just hide here and hope they leave us alone. They won't. We need numbers. We need allies." Kayla stood, her muscles protesting. The wounds from the battle were still fresh, barely scabbed over. "And we need to send a message that we're not victims anymore." "This is insane," Greta muttered, but she didn't argue further. Over the next week, Kayla organized what remained of her people into something resembling a functional community. The wounded were tended, the defenses were rebuilt and strengthened, scouts were sent out to watch for another attack, but no attack came. The packs were quiet. Too quiet. "They're regrouping," Iris said one evening as she changed the bandages on Kayla's shoulder. The girl's hands were steadier now, more confident. 3 weeks of constant crisis had hardened her. Figuring out what went wrong, how you did what you did. "The forest helped," Kayla said. "The land itself fought for us." "Can you do it again?" Kayla flexed her fingers, remembering the sensation of the earth responding to her call. "I think so, but it takes a lot out of me. I passed out for 2 days after." "Then we need another plan." Iris tied off the bandage with a firm knot. "Something that doesn't rely on you nearly killing yourself every time." She was right. Kayla couldn't be the only weapon in their arsenal. If she fell, they all fell. That thought kept her awake most nights. 10 days after the battle, a stranger arrived. Kayla was checking the southern perimeter when she felt it. A presence approaching. Not hostile, but not entirely friendly either. Cautious. Watchful. She signaled to the scouts hidden in the trees, telling them to stand down but stay alert. The stranger emerged from the undergrowth slowly, hands visible, making no sudden movements. He was older, maybe 50, with gray threading through his dark hair and a scar running from his eyebrow to his jaw. "Kayla Thorne," he called out. "Who's asking?" "My name's Ronan. I came from the Clearwater Pack, 2 territories east." He stopped at the boundary line, not crossing. "I heard about what happened here, about the battle. And I want to help." Kayla studied him. He looked tired, worn, but his eyes were sharp, assessing. A fighter, probably, or had been once. "Why would you help us?" Kayla asked. "Your pack." "Was pack? Ronan corrected. They exiled me 3 months ago, said I was too old, too slow, liability in a fight. His mouth twisted. I'd given them 30 years, fought in their wars, bled for their borders, and they threw me out the second I wasn't useful anymore. Kayla felt a familiar anger stir in her chest. She'd heard this story too many times now. You could have gone anywhere. Why here? Because here is where the outcasts are building something. Ronan met her eyes. I heard the rumors about a girl who challenged an alpha and won, who took land that wasn't hers and made it home for anyone the Pax rejected. That true? Close enough. Then I want in. Ronan took a step forward, then seemed to remember himself and stopped. I'm a good fighter. Still am, whatever they say. And I know how pack tactics work, how they think, how they move. That's worth something, isn't it? Kayla considered. They needed experienced fighters, people who understood pack structure from the inside. But trust was another matter. If I let you in, Kayla said slowly, and you betray us, I'll kill you myself. Understand? Ronan nodded. Understood. Then welcome to the Thornwood. After Ronan came others. A woman named Silva, exiled for refusing to mate with an alpha she hated. A man named Terrence, who'd been caught teaching human children to read. A teenager named Cade who couldn't shift at all, not even partially, and had been beaten for it until he fled. They arrived in ones and twos drawn by rumors that were spreading across the territories. Whispers of a place where outcasts were safe, where strength wasn't measured by how well you obeyed, but by how well you survived. By the end of the 3rd week, their numbers had doubled. 43 people now called the Thornwood home. It wasn't enough to match the Pack's armies, but it was a start. Ronan proved invaluable. He taught them proper fighting techniques, not the wild, desperate brawling they'd relied on during the battle, but disciplined combat, how to hold a line, how to use terrain, how to make every person count for 3. You're smaller and weaker individually, he told them during training sessions. So you fight smarter, use ambush tactics, hit and run. Never give them a fair fight, because fair fights get you killed. Kayla watched from the sidelines, still recovering from her wounds. They were healing faster than they should, another benefit of whatever she'd become, but not fast enough. Marcus threw himself into the training with single-minded intensity. He was there before dawn and stayed until well after dark, pushing himself until he could barely stand. Kayla found him one night, alone in the training yard, attacking a wooden post with a practice spear. You're going to hurt yourself, she said. Marcus didn't stop. Don't care. Marcus, she's dead because I wasn't strong enough. His voice cracked. Because I didn't protect her. She's dead because wolves attacked us. That's not your fault. Isn't it? Marcus finally stopped, breathing hard. I'm her twin. We were supposed to. He couldn't finish. Kayla walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. He was shaking. Lena died fighting for something she believed in, Kayla said quietly. For a place where people like us could exist without fear. Don't dishonor that by destroying yourself. Then what am I supposed to do? Marcus's eyes were wet. How do I live with this? You get stronger. You help build what she died for. And when the Packs come again, and they will, you make sure her death meant something. Marcus nodded slowly, then he picked up his spear and went back to training. Kayla left him to it. Some grief could only be worked through with sweat and violence. A month after the battle, scouts brought news. There's movement in Red Creek territory, Iris reported during the evening meeting. She'd taken to scouting, her small size and quick reflexes making her perfect for slipping through the forest unseen. They're gathering forces again, but different this time. Different how? Kayla asked. They're building something, big wooden structures near the border, and they've been running drills, coordinated attacks, practicing siege tactics. Iris's face was grim. They're preparing for war, real war. The room went silent. How long do we have? Ronan asked. 2 weeks? Maybe 3. Iris looked at Kayla. They're not making the same mistake twice. This time they're bringing everything. Then we can't be here when they come, Kayla said. Everyone stared at her. What are you talking about? Greta demanded. This is our home. We fought for it, and we'll lose it if we try to defend it against a full siege. Kayla stood, began pacing. They'll surround us, starve us out. We can't win that fight. So we just run? Marcus's voice was hard. Give up everything? No, we changed the battlefield. Kayla stopped, an idea forming. They expect us to stay here and defend, so we don't. We take the fight to them first. That's suicide, Silva said. We're 43 against hundreds. We're 43 who know the forest better than they do, who can move without being seen, who can strike and fade before they know what hit them. Kayla looked around the room. We use guerrilla tactics, hit their supply lines, destroy their siege equipment, make them bleed for every step they take toward us. And when they come for the Thornwood anyway, Terrence asked, we make it a trap. Fill it with snares and pitfalls and things that go boom in the night. Make it cost them more than it's worth to take. Kayla's eyes gleamed. We turn our home into a nightmare, and we become ghosts. Ronan was nodding slowly. It could work, if we're smart about it. It's risky, Greta said, but there was a spark in her eyes now. Hope, maybe. Everything's risky, Kayla said, but I'd rather die on my feet taking them down with me than starve in a siege. They voted. It was close, but the decision was made. They would go on the offensive. The first strike happened 3 nights later. Kayla led a team of 6, Marcus, Iris, Ronan, Cade, Silva, and a quiet woman named Beth who could track anything that left a scent. They moved through the forest like shadows, circling wide around Red Creek territory until they came at it from the west. Red Creek's supply depot was a half-mile from their main settlement, poorly guarded because no one expected an attack this far inside Packland. That was their first mistake. Beth got them past the perimeter guards without raising an alarm. Ronan disabled 2 more sentries with quick, brutal efficiency. Then they were in. The depot was full of supplies, dried meat, weapons, medical stores, everything an army needed to sustain a siege. Set the charges, Kayla whispered. They'd spent the last 3 days making crude explosives from materials scavenged in the forest, tree sap mixed with crushed minerals, cloth fuses, wooden containers packed tight. It wasn't sophisticated, but it would burn. They placed the charges at strategic points, near the food stores, the weapons cache, the main support beams. Then they lit the fuses and ran. The explosion came when they were 100 yards away. The depot went up like a torch, flames shooting into the night sky. Wolves started howling, voices raised in alarm. But by then, Kayla's team was already gone, melting back into the forest. They struck again 2 nights later. This time they hit a patrol route, laying traps along the path the wolves used to guard their northern border. Pitfalls covered with leaves, tripwires attached to sharpened stakes, snares that yanked victims into the air. 6 wolves went down before the rest figured out what was happening. By then, Kayla's team was gone again. The pack started to panic. Kayla heard about it from scouts. Red Creek had pulled back its patrols, consolidating forces near the settlement. The other packs were doing the same, afraid they'd be next. Good. Let them be afraid. The third strike was the boldest. Kayla took a team of 10 this time, hitting Red Creek's training ground in broad daylight. They set fire to the siege equipment, the ladders and battering rams the pack had been building, then disappeared before reinforcements arrived. But this time, they weren't quite fast enough. A patrol cut off their retreat. 8 wolves, all in shifted form, blocking the path back to the Thornwood. Well, Ronan muttered, readying his spear. This is unfortunate. The wolves attacked. Kayla met them head on. She shifted. The transformation came easier now, more natural, and tore into them with claws and teeth and raw fury. Her team fought beside her, holding formation like Ronan had taught them. It was brutal and bloody and desperate. But when it was over, all 8 wolves lay dead, and Kayla's team was still standing. Is everyone okay? Kayla gasped, shifting back to human form. Marcus was bleeding from a cut on his arm. Silva had claw marks across her back, but everyone was alive. We need to move, Iris said. More will come. They ran. They made it back to the Thornwood just as the sun was setting, exhausted and battered but triumphant. Word spread fast. Within days, scouts were reporting confusion and fear among the packs. Red Creek had abandoned its siege plans. The other packs were pulling back, unwilling to commit forces to an attack that might get them ambushed. For the first time since the battle, they weren't on the defensive. They were winning. But Kayla knew it couldn't last. One evening, as she was checking the perimeter, Mara appeared again. Her former friend looked even worse than before, gaunt, hollow-eyed, like she hadn't slept in weeks. "You need to stop," Mara said without preamble. "Hello to you too," Kayla replied. "I'm serious. The packs are losing their minds. They don't understand what's happening, how you're moving through their territories without being seen, how you're hitting targets and disappearing." Mara stepped closer to the boundary. "They think you're using dark magic, that you've made a deal with something evil." Kayla laughed. It came out bitter. "I'm just using the forest, the land. The things they taught me were worthless." "Well, it's terrifying them." Mara wrapped her arms around herself. "And when the packs get terrified, they get violent. Let them." "Kayla, please." Mara's voice broke. "I'm trying to help you." "No, you're trying to help yourself feel better about standing by while they tried to kill me. Twice." Kayla's eyes were hard. "Where were you when they exiled me, when they attacked us, when they murdered my people?" "I couldn't." "You could. You chose not to. There's a difference." Mara flinched like she'd been slapped. "I know I failed you. I know I'm a coward. But I'm here now trying to warn you. Doesn't that count for something?" Kayla wanted to say no, wanted to tell her to leave and never come back. But a small part of her, the part that remembered friendship and laughter and easier times, couldn't quite let go. "What's the warning?" Kayla asked. "They're planning something big. All 5 regional packs are meeting in 3 days, at the old stone circle on neutral ground." Mara's hands twisted together. "They're forming an alliance, a unified front against the Thornwood." "How many wolves?" 300, maybe more." Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're calling it the cleansing. They're going to wipe you out, all of you, and anyone who helps you." Kayla's blood went cold. 300. They'd barely survived against 100. When? 5 days after the meeting. They want time to coordinate, plan the attack properly. Mara met her eyes. "Please, run. Take your people and go somewhere they can't find you." "No." "Kayla, I said no." Kayla's voice was firm. "This is our home, and I'm done running." "Then you're going to die." "Maybe." Kayla smiled grimly. "But so will they." Mara stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away, her shoulders shaking. Kayla watched her go and felt nothing but a distant sadness. That night, she called another meeting. 300 wolves, Marcus said flatly. "That's 7 per person." "I don't like those odds," Terrence muttered. "Neither do I," Kayla admitted. "Which is why we're not going to fight them here." "Where then?" Ronan asked. Kayla smiled. "The stone circle, where they're meeting." The room erupted in protests. "That's insane. We'll be slaughtered. It's neutral ground. They'll have guards." "Exactly," Kayla cut through the noise. "They won't expect an attack at a peace meeting. They'll be focused on politics, on arguing about who gets credit for killing us, not on defense." "You want to assassinate their leaders," Ronan said slowly. "All at once. I want to send a message," Kayla stood, "that we're not prey, that attacking us costs more than they're willing to pay, that we're not going away." "It's suicide," Greta said, but her eyes were bright. "Magnificent suicide, but still." "I'm not asking anyone to come with me," Kayla said. "This is volunteer only. If we fail, everyone dies, but if we succeed—" "We cut the head off the snake," Marcus finished. His jaw was set. "I'm in." "Me too," Iris said immediately. "And me," Ronan added. Around the room, hands went up. One by one, her people volunteered, all of them. "Then we have 3 days to prepare," Kayla said. "Let's make them count." They spent those 3 days planning every detail, studying the terrain around the stone circle, identifying escape routes, practicing coordinated strikes. Ronan taught them how to kill quickly and quietly, how to move as one unit, how to survive when everything went wrong. Because things would go wrong, they always did. On the night before the attack, Kayla couldn't sleep. She stood at the edge of the clearing, staring up at the stars, and wondered if this was the last time she'd see them. "Nervous?" Iris appeared beside her, silent as always. "Terrified," Kayla admitted. "Good. Means you're not stupid." Iris leaned against a tree. "Do you really think this will work?" "No idea. Honest. I like that." Iris was quiet for a moment. "If we die tomorrow, I just want you to know. This place, what you built here, it mattered. You gave us hope. That's worth dying for." Kayla felt her throat tighten. We're not going to die. But if we do, Iris looked at her. Thank you for everything. Kayla pulled her into a hug. The girl stiffened, then relaxed, returning it. We're going to live, Kayla said fiercely. All of us. And we're going to make them regret ever crossing us. Damn right, Iris said. The next evening, 35 of them set out. They'd left 8 behind to guard the thornwood. The wounded, the too young, the too old. Everyone else who could fight was coming. It took 4 hours to reach the stone circle. It was an ancient place built by people long forgotten. Massive stones arranged in a perfect ring, weathered by centuries of wind and rain. The packs used it for neutral meetings because it was considered sacred ground. Tonight, it would be a killing field. Kayla's team spread out, taking positions in the surrounding forest. They could see the alphas gathering inside the circle. Rhett from Red Creek, 4 others from neighboring packs. Their advisors and enforcers stood nearby, maybe 50 wolves total. Not 300, just the leadership. Perfect. Kayla waited until full dark. Until the moon rose and the alphas were deep in argument, their attention focused inward. Then she gave the signal. They attacked like a storm. Arrows first, crude but effective, whistling through the darkness. 3 enforcers went down before anyone realized what was happening. Then Kayla's team was among them. Ronan led the frontal assault, his spear taking down wolves with brutal efficiency. Marcus and his squad hit from the right flank. Silva's team came from the left. And Kayla went straight for Rhett. He saw her coming and shifted, his massive wolf form rising to meet her. They collided with the force of thunder. Rhett was strong, fast, experienced, but Kayla was something else entirely now. She shifted mid-fight, her body transforming into the strange hybrid form, part human, part beast, part forest itself. They tore into each other with savage intensity. Rhett's jaws found her arm. She felt bone crack. Pain exploded. But she didn't stop. Her claws raked across his face, tearing flesh, gouging deep. Rhett yelped and released her, stumbling back. Around them, the battle raged. Wolves fell on both sides. Blood soaked the ancient stones. You can't win, Rhett snarled. There are too many of us. I don't need to win, Kayla gasped. I just need to make you bleed. She lunged again. This time she was faster. Her claws found his throat. Rhett's eyes went wide. He tried to shift back, to speak, but only blood came out. He fell and didn't get up. Kayla stood over him, breathing hard, watching the light fade from his eyes. The battle was ending. The alphas and their guards were retreating, dragging their wounded, leaving their dead. Kayla's team had held the stone circle. Let them go, Kayla shouted. Fall back! Her people obeyed, melting into the forest like ghosts. Within minutes, the stone circle was empty, except for the bodies, and the message they left behind. Carved into the largest stone, burned into the rock itself with techniques Kayla had learned from the forest. The Thornborn Rise. When word spread of what happened at the stone circle, everything changed. The packs didn't attack. They pulled back, consolidating their borders, too afraid to venture into the forest. And the outcasts started coming in droves, dozens at first, then hundreds. Word had spread across every territory. There was a place where the rejected could find home, where strength wasn't measured by obedience, but by survival. Within 2 months, the Thornwood held over 300 people, and they kept coming. Kayla stood at the rebuilt lodge one morning and watched her people, because they were hers now, truly, working together, building homes, training, living. Marcus found her there. He looked different now, older, harder, but also more at peace. The scouts are reporting something, he said. Delegations, from 3 different packs. They're asking for a meeting. Let me guess. They want to negotiate. Yeah, Marcus smiled grimly. They're calling you Alpha now. Did you know that? Kayla hadn't, but it felt right somehow. Tell them I'll meet, she said. On our terms. In the Thornwood. They won't like that. They don't have to like it. They just have to accept it. Kayla looked at him. We're not outcasts anymore, Marcus. We're not the broken ones they threw away. Then what are we? Kayla smiled. We're the future. The delegations arrived 2 weeks later. 3 of them, from 3 different packs, each led by an elder or high-ranking beta, since their alphas were either dead or too proud to come themselves. They walked into the thornwood with visible discomfort, eyes darting to the trees like they expected an ambush at any moment. Kayla met them in the rebuilt lodge. It wasn't fancy, rough-hewn logs, a stone floor, gaps in the walls they hadn't finished patching, but it was theirs. And it was full. Over 100 Thornborn had gathered to witness this. They lined the walls, sat on beams, crowded the doorway. Silent. Watching. The delegates stopped just inside, clearly unnerved by the numbers. "Kayla Thorne," said the first delegate, a gray-haired woman from the Clearwater Pack. Her name was Venna, and she had the look of someone who'd spent her whole life enforcing rules she didn't question. "We've come to discuss terms." "Terms for what?" Kayla sat in a chair that was probably too big for the word throne, but served the same purpose. Marcus stood to her right, Iris to her left. Ronan leaned against the wall behind her, arms crossed. "Peace," said the second delegate, a man from the Northern Ridge Pack named Cullum. He was younger, nervous, kept glancing at the Thornborn surrounding them. "Between your people and the packs." "My people have peace," Kayla said. "You're the ones who keep attacking us." "You killed Alpha Rhett Calder," Venna said sharply, "along with 2 other alphas and 17 enforcers. That's not peace. That's war." "No, that was self-defense." Kayla leaned forward. "You declared war when you tried to wipe us out. We just finished it." The third delegate, an older man named Thane, not the same Thane from Red Creek, but his cousin from the Western Vale Pack, cleared his throat. "Regardless of past conflicts, we're here to establish a framework going forward. The packs are willing to acknowledge the Thornwood as sovereign territory. In exchange, you cease all raids on pack lands." "We stopped raiding weeks ago," Marcus pointed out. "The second you stopped trying to kill us." "Yes, well," Thane shifted his weight. "We also request that you cease recruiting from pack territories. The exodus of members is causing instability." "Exodus?" Iris's voice was sharp. "You mean the people fleeing your abuse?" "We prefer the term defectors," Venna said coldly. "I don't care what you prefer." Kayla stood. "Those people aren't property. If they choose to leave your packs and come here, that's their right." "It undermines pack structure." "Good," Kayla cut her off. "Your pack structure is broken. It rewards cruelty and punishes compassion. It elevates bullies and crushes anyone who doesn't fit a narrow definition of strength. I'm not going to apologize for offering an alternative." Venna's face flushed. "You have no right." "I have every right. I won this land fairly. I've defended it against your armies, and I've built something here that you can't destroy no matter how hard you try." Kayla's voice carried through the lodge. "So here are my terms. You stay out of the Thornwood. You stop hunting Thornborn in your territories. And if someone wants to leave your pack and come here, you let them go. No punishment, no retaliation." "That's unacceptable," Cullum said. "We can't just let anyone walk away. Then we have nothing to discuss." Kayla turned to leave. "Wait." Thane held up a hand. "What about trade, resources? The Thornwood has valuable timber, medicinal herbs. The packs need those materials." Kayla paused. She hadn't expected this angle. "What are you offering in return?" she asked. "Metal, tools, cloth. Things you can't produce here yet." Thane's eyes were calculating. "The Thornwood is growing fast. You'll need supplies to support that growth. We can provide them, for a fair price." Kayla glanced at Ronan. The older man gave a slight nod. It made sense. They were indeed struggling to equip and house everyone who kept arriving. "All right," Kayla said. "We can discuss trade, but that doesn't change my other terms. Anyone who wants to leave a pack and come here is free to do so." "You're asking us to accept our own destruction," Venna said bitterly. "No, I'm asking you to change, adapt, treat your people like they matter instead of like resources you can dispose of." Kayla met her eyes. "If your packs can't survive without abuse and exile, then maybe they don't deserve to survive." The words hung in the air like smoke. Venna looked like she wanted to argue, but Thane put a hand on her arm. "We'll take your terms back to the councils. Discuss them. Send word within the month." "You do that," Kayla said. The delegates left, escorted to the border by a dozen armed Thornborn. When they were gone, the lodge erupted in conversation. "Do you think they'll agree?" Iris asked quietly. "Some will. Others won't." Kayla rubbed her temples. A headache was building behind her eyes. But enough will, and that's what matters. We just need one pack to break ranks, to agree to the terms. The others will follow eventually. They won't have a choice. And if they don't, Marcus asked, then we keep doing what we've been doing, surviving, growing, becoming too big to ignore and too dangerous to attack. Kayla looked around at the faces watching her, young and old, scared and hopeful, broken and rebuilding. We're not going anywhere. Over the next month, 3 things happened. First, the Western Vale Pack agreed to trade negotiations. Thane returned with a contract, crude but functional, establishing exchange rates for timber, herbs, and other forest goods in return for tools and materials. It wasn't generous, but it was fair. Kayla signed it. Second, 2 more packs sent delegations, not to negotiate, but to observe. They wanted to see what the Thornwood actually was, whether it posed a real threat or was just a temporary phenomenon that would collapse under its own weight. Kayla let them look, let them see the children playing freely, the adults working together without fear of punishment, the community that was building itself one day at a time. Some of the observers looked thoughtful when they left. Others looked angry. Both reactions told her the same thing. They understood what the Thornwood represented, and they were terrified of it spreading. Third, a girl arrived who changed everything. Her name was Lysa, and she was 12 years old. She came from the Red Creek Pack, what was left of it after Rhett's death, with burns covering half her body and eyes that had seen too much. Iris brought her to Kayla late one evening. She walked here alone, Iris said quietly. 3 days through the forest, with those injuries. Kayla looked at the girl. Lysa stared back, silent and defiant despite the pain she must be in. Who did this to you? Kayla asked gently. The new Alpha. Garrett. Lysa's voice was hoarse, probably from screaming. He said I asked too many questions. Said I didn't show proper respect. She lifted her chin. So he held my face over the fire until I learned my lesson. Kayla felt something cold and terrible settle in her chest. Garrett. The enforcer with the scarred mouth. The one who'd thrown her into the snow all those months ago. Of course he'd become Alpha. Cruelty always rose to the top in pack structures. You're safe now, Kayla said. No one will hurt you here. I know. Lysa's eyes were steady. That's why I came. I heard the stories. About the place where broken wolves could be whole, where asking questions didn't get you burned. The stories are true. Lysa nodded once, then collapsed. Iris caught her before she hit the ground. They spent 3 days treating her burns. Silva, who'd been a healer before her exile, worked with herbs and salves that Sable had taught Kayla to make. The girl would have scars, terrible ones, but she'd live. And her arrival sparked something. Within a week, 5 more children showed up. Then 10. Then 20. All from Red Creek, all fleeing Garrett's regime, all bearing marks of abuse. He's using terror to maintain control, Ronan said during a council meeting. They'd formalized the leadership structure recently, Kayla as Alpha, with Marcus, Iris, Ronan, Silva, and Greta forming an advisory circle. Classic authoritarian tactic, make them too afraid to leave. It's not working, Marcus observed. They're leaving anyway. Which will make him more desperate. Greta's face was grim. Desperate men do stupid things. She was right. 2 weeks after Lysa's arrival, Garrett himself appeared at the Thornwoods border. He came alone, which was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Probably the latter. Kayla met him at the boundary line, flanked by Marcus and a dozen armed Thornborn. Garrett looked different from the last time she'd seen him. Older, harder. The scar across his mouth had deepened, giving his face a permanent sneer. Kayla Thorne, he said. Or should I call you Alpha now? I hear that's what they're calling you. What do you want, Garrett? My people back. The children you've stolen from Red Creek. I haven't stolen anyone. They came here fleeing your abuse. Lies. Garrett's voice rose. You've been sending recruiters into pack territory, poisoning minds, turning children against their alphas. If your children are running away, maybe look at why they're running instead of blaming me. Garrett's hand went to the knife at his belt. Return them, now, or there will be consequences. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Garrett took a step closer to the line. I've rebuilt Red Creek, made it stronger than Red ever did, And I won't let some jumped-up runt with delusions of grandeur destroy what I've built." "Then you shouldn't have burned a 12-year-old girl's face off for asking questions," Kayla said flatly. Garrett's expression didn't change. "Discipline is necessary. Without it, there's chaos. Without it, there's freedom. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? Your whole identity is built on having power over people weaker than you." Kayla's eyes were cold. "That's why you'll lose, because fear only works until people realize they outnumber you." Big words from someone who murdered 3 alphas. "I defended my people. There's a difference." "Is there?" Garrett smiled. It looked like a wound opening. "You're just like us, Kayla, just another bully with a bigger stick. The only difference is you've convinced yourself you're doing it for noble reasons." The words hit harder than Kayla wanted to admit, because part of her wondered if he was right. If the power she wielded, the ability to call the forest itself to her defense, was really any different from an alpha using strength to dominate. But then she thought of Lysa, of Iris and Marcus, and all the others who'd found safety here, of the community they were building, where strength meant protecting people instead of hurting them. "No," Kayla said quietly. "The difference is I give people a choice. You take it away." Same result, though, isn't it? People following someone stronger. They don't follow me because I'm stronger. They follow because I gave them a place to belong. Kayla stepped up to the boundary line. "But I'm done arguing with you. The children stay. If you try to take them by force, I'll bury you next to Rhett. Your choice." Garrett stared at her for a long moment. Then he spat at her feet and turned away. "This isn't over," he called back. "I know," Kayla said, but she was ready for it. Garrett's attack came 3 nights later. He brought 40 wolves, moving under cover of darkness, trying to breach the Thornwood's defenses from 3 sides simultaneously. It might have worked against the settlement from months ago, but the Thornwood had grown and learned. The moment the first wolf crossed the boundary, alarms sounded, crude but effective. Animal bones struck against hollow wood, the sound carrying through the trees. Kayla's people responded with practiced efficiency. They didn't panic, didn't freeze. They moved to positions they'd drilled 100 times, and the forest itself woke up. Kayla stood at the center of the Thornwood, hands pressed against the earth, and pulled. The response was immediate. Roots erupted from the ground, wrapping around invading wolves. Trees bent and swung, their branches becoming weapons. The earth itself shifted, creating walls and barriers that funneled the attackers into kill zones. And her people were waiting. Arrows flew from the darkness. Spears found throats. Wolves fell screaming, trapped by the very land they'd tried to conquer. Garrett himself made it furthest, fighting his way to within 100 yards of the lodge. He was strong, fast, brutal. 3 of Kayla's people fell before his claws. But Marcus met him. Lena's brother had spent months training, channeling his grief into becoming something deadly. When he faced Garrett, there was no hesitation, no fear, just cold, focused rage. They fought in the shadow of the lodge, teeth and claws and desperation. Garrett was bigger, more experienced, but Marcus fought like he had nothing left to lose, because he didn't. When it was over, Garrett lay in the dirt, throat torn out, eyes staring at nothing. Marcus stood over him, breathing hard, covered in blood, some his, most not. "For Lena," he said quietly. The surviving Red Creek wolves fled. The Thornwood defenders let them go. When dawn came, they counted the cost. 5 dead, 12 wounded, 38 enemy bodies to bury. Kayla stood in the center of it all, exhausted and heartsick, wondering when the killing would stop. "It won't," Silva said, reading her expression. The healer was tending to wounded, her hands steady despite her own injuries. "Not completely. There will always be someone who sees what we've built and wants to destroy it." "That's bleak. That's honest." Silva met her eyes. "But it gets better. The attacks will be less frequent. The packs will learn we're not worth the cost. And eventually, maybe they'll just leave us alone." "You really believe that?" "I have to." Silva returned to her work. "Otherwise, what's the point of surviving?" The weeks after Garrett's death brought unexpected changes. Red Creek Pack fell apart completely. Without strong leadership, and with most of their warriors dead or demoralized, the remaining members scattered. Some went to other packs. Most came to the Thornwood. Within a month, Red Creek territory was empty, abandoned. Kayla stood at what used to be the border, staring at the settlement she'd once called home. Already nature was reclaiming it, vines crawling up buildings, grass pushing through paths, trees seeding in the gathering circle where she'd been rejected. "It's strange," Mara said beside her. Kayla jumped. She hadn't heard her former friend approach. "What are you doing here?" "I don't know." Mara looked thin, tired, older than her years. "I've been wandering since Red Creek collapsed. Didn't know where else to go." "You could have gone to another pack." "Could have." Mara's voice was hollow. "But I kept thinking about what you said, about choosing, and I realized I'd spent my whole life letting other people make my choices for me, following pack law because it was easier than questioning it, staying silent because speaking up was dangerous." She looked at Kayla. "I'm tired of being a coward." Kayla studied her. Mara looked broken in a way that couldn't be faked. Whatever she'd been through since they'd last spoken had stripped away the girl Kayla once knew and left someone raw and real behind. "The Thornwood isn't easy," Kayla said. "We work hard, fight hard. Everyone contributes. There's no rank based on birth or bloodline, just what you bring to the community." "I know. And I can't promise I'll ever forgive you for standing by while they exiled me." "I don't expect you to." Mara's eyes were wet. "I just want a chance to be better, to be someone worth knowing again." Kayla wanted to say no, to tell her it was too late, that betrayal couldn't be undone with pretty words, but she thought about what Silva had said, about the point of surviving being to build something better, and maybe that meant giving people room to change. "All right," Kayla said, "but you start at the bottom. You earn trust here. It's not given." "I understand." Mara followed her back to the Thornwood. Whether she'd actually change remained to be seen, but Kayla had learned that people were capable of surprising things when given the chance. 6 months after the battle at the Stone Circle, delegations from 7 packs requested formal meetings, not to threaten, not to negotiate raids or prisoners, to establish diplomatic relations. The Thornwood had become too big, too stable, too successful to ignore. With over 500 people now calling it home, they rivaled the larger packs in size. And unlike those packs, they were growing faster, drawing in outcasts and refugees from across the region. The packs had a choice: acknowledge the Thornwood as legitimate, or watch their own people continue bleeding away to something better. Most chose acknowledgement. They signed treaties establishing the Thornwood as sovereign territory. Trade agreements followed, cultural exchanges. Some packs even began reforming their own practices, treating their members less like property and more like people. Not all of them. Some packs doubled down on authoritarian control. But those packs saw their populations shrink as members fled to places where asking questions didn't get you beaten or killed. The old system was dying. Not quickly, not cleanly, but dying nonetheless. And the Thornwood was the future rising to replace it. 1 year after her exile, Kayla stood at the edge of the Thornwood and looked out at what they'd built. The settlement had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. Permanent structures now dotted the landscape, homes built from stone and timber, workshops where craftspeople plied their trades, a school where children learned reading and history and how to survive in the wild. The lodge had been expanded 3 times, each addition making it larger and more impressive. It wasn't just a building anymore. It was a symbol. Marcus found her there as the sun was setting. "Council meeting in an hour," he said. "Delegation from the Northern Ridge Pack wants to discuss establishing a shared border patrol. Stop raiders from hitting both our territories. Tell them I'll be there." Kayla looked at him. Marcus had changed so much from the grieving boy who'd arrived with his sister. He was a leader now, respected and capable. "How are you doing?" "Really?" "Better?" Marcus smiled slightly. "I still miss her. Every day. But it hurts less now. And I hope she'd be proud of what we've built." She would be. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked. "Coming back here? Fighting instead of running?" Kayla considered. There had been so much blood, so much loss. Sable, Lena, Darren, dozens of others whose names she carried like stones in her chest. But there had also been growth. Community. People finding homes and purpose after being told they were worthless. "No," Kayla said. "I don't regret it. I wish it had cost less. But I don't regret it." Good. Marcus started to leave, then paused. Oh, and Iris wanted me to tell you the new arrivals are settling in. 23 this week, mostly from the Eastern Valley Pack. Their alpha started executing anyone who couldn't shift properly. Kayla's jaw tightened. How many got out? Not enough. Marcus's expression darkened. But the ones who did are safe now. That's what matters. After he left, Kayla walked deeper into the forest. She needed to think, to breathe, to remember who she was before all of this. She found Sable's grave without conscious thought. They'd marked it with a simple stone, carved with symbols of protection and remembrance. Kayla sat beside it. I did it, she said quietly. What you asked. Found the Thornborn. Brought them here. Built something worth defending. She touched the stone. I just wish you could see it. The forest whispered around her. Wind through leaves, small animals moving through underbrush, the steady pulse of life that had become as familiar to her as breathing. And for just a moment, Kayla could have sworn she felt Sable there, not as a ghost or spirit, nothing so dramatic, just a sense of presence, of approval. You did good, girl. The words felt more like memory than communication, but they warmed her nonetheless. I miss you, Kayla said. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees, and then stilled. Kayla sat there until the stars came out, talking to someone who couldn't answer back, finding comfort in the one-sided conversation anyway. The council meeting that evening was productive. They agreed to the joint border patrol with Northern Ridge, established new trade routes with 2 other packs, discussed expanding the school to accommodate the children who kept arriving. It was mundane, administrative, the kind of boring work that kept a community functioning, and Kayla loved it. This was what winning looked like. Not dramatic battles or grand gestures, but the daily work of building something that lasted. After the meeting, Iris pulled her aside. There's someone who wants to meet you, the girl said. She looked nervous, which was unusual. She's been waiting all day. Who? Says her name is Vera. She's Thornborn. From the old days, before the purges. Iris's eyes were wide. Kayla, she knew Sable. They trained together when they were young. Kayla's breath caught. Another survivor. After all this time. Vera was ancient. She had to be in her 80s at least, her face a map of wrinkles, her hair completely white. But her eyes were sharp, and when she looked at Kayla, she smiled. So you're the one, Vera said. Her voice was soft but strong. The girl Sable trained. The one who started all this. I didn't start it alone, Kayla said. No one ever does. Vera gestured to a chair. May I sit? These old bones don't work like they used to. They sat together in Kayla's small quarters, a room in the lodge that was barely more than a bed and a desk, but it was hers. I thought I was the last, Vera said. After Sable disappeared decades ago, I assumed she'd died, that I was alone. She looked around the settlement, visible through the window. But this is beyond anything we dreamed of. A place where Thornborn can live openly, without fear. It's not perfect, Kayla said. We still have problems, conflicts, growing pains. Of course you do. You're alive. Living things have problems. Vera's eyes twinkled. But you're also thriving, and that's what matters. Why did you come here? To see it for myself, to know that everything we lost wasn't for nothing. Vera reached out and took Kayla's hand. Her skin was papery, but warm. And to tell you something Sable probably didn't get the chance to say. What's that? You're not responsible for saving everyone, for fixing everything. Vera's grip tightened. The burden of leadership is heavy, but you can't carry it alone. Let others help. Let them shoulder their share, or you'll break under the weight. Kayla felt something loosen in her chest. She'd been carrying so much, guilt for those who'd died, responsibility for those who'd lived, fear that she'd make the wrong choice and destroy everything. How do I know when to let go? Kayla asked quietly. You don't. Not really, Vera smiled. But you trust your people to catch what you drop. And eventually, you learn that the world doesn't end when you're not holding everything together. They talked late into the night. Vera shared stories of the old Thornborn, their customs, their beliefs, their way of life before the packs had nearly destroyed them. Kayla absorbed every word, storing it away for the generations that would come after. When Vera finally left to find a place to sleep, Kayla sat alone and thought about legacy. Not the legacy of violence and revenge that had brought her here, but the legacy of survival, of building something that lasted, of proving that there was another way to live. The next morning, Kayla made an announcement. She gathered everyone in the central clearing, all 500 of them, packed together, curious and concerned. "I'm stepping back," Kayla said. The crowd erupted in protest. "Not stepping down," Kayla clarified loudly. "Stepping back. I'll still be here, still be alpha, but we're establishing a true council. 5 leaders in addition to me, elected by you, serving rotating terms. They'll have real authority to make decisions, lead initiatives, represent the community." "Why?" someone shouted from the crowd. "Because one person holding all the power is how we got pack alphas in the first place. And I won't become what I fought against." Kayla looked around at the faces watching her. The Thornwood belongs to all of us, not just me. And it's time our leadership reflected that. The vote happened a week later. It was chaotic and messy and occasionally descended into shouting matches. But in the end, 5 people emerged: Marcus, Iris, Ronan, Silva, and to Kayla's surprise, Mara. Her former friend had spent the last months working harder than anyone, volunteering for the worst jobs, proving through action that she'd changed. Apparently enough people believed her to give her a chance. The new council met for the first time on a cool autumn evening. "First order of business," Ronan said, looking at a list he'd compiled. "Winter preparations. We need to stockpile food for 500 people, most of whom have never lived through a winter in the wild. I can organize hunting parties," Marcus offered. "Preserve meat, gather nuts, expand the root cellars. And I'll work on medicine," Silva added. "Cold weather brings sickness. We need to be ready." They worked through the agenda efficiently, dividing responsibilities, planning for the future. Kayla mostly listened, only offering input when asked. This was what she'd wanted: a community that could function without her controlling every detail. It felt strange, uncomfortable even, but also right. After the meeting, Mara approached her hesitantly. "Thank you," she said, "for giving me a chance. I know I didn't deserve it." "You're earning it," Kayla replied. "That's what matters. I want you to know I'm sorry. For everything. For being too weak to stand with you when it mattered." Mara's voice was thick. "I can't undo what I did, but I can spend the rest of my life making sure it never happens again." Kayla studied her former friend. The girl she'd known was gone, replaced by someone harder and more honest, someone who'd learned what cowardice cost. "We're not friends," Kayla said finally. "Not like we were. Too much has happened." "I know. But maybe we can be something else, like allies, colleagues, people working toward the same goal." Mara nodded, relief flooding her face. "I'd like that." Winter came hard that year. The Thornwood survived it, but barely. Food ran low in late February. 3 elderly members died from pneumonia. Several children got sick. But they made it through together, sharing what little they had, supporting each other through the darkest months. And when spring arrived, they emerged stronger. 2 years after Kayla's exile, a formal ceremony was held. Representatives from 12 packs attended, along with leaders from 3 human settlements that had established trade with the Thornwood. The stone circle, site of so much violence, had been cleaned and sanctified, turned into a place of peace. The ceremony was simple. Each pack leader came forward and spoke a binding oath, acknowledging the Thornwood as sovereign territory and the Thornborn as a distinct people with rights equal to pack wolves. It was political theater, mostly, but it mattered, because it meant they'd won, not through violence, though violence had been necessary, but through persistence, through refusing to disappear, through building something so strong and so necessary that even their enemies had to acknowledge it. Kayla stood before the gathered crowd and spoke. 2 years ago, I was rejected by my pack and left to die in the snow. I was called weak, cursed, broken, and I believed it. She paused, looking around at the faces watching her, Thornborn and pack wolves and humans all gathered together. But I wasn't broken. I was just different. And there's power in that difference. Power in refusing to accept someone else's definition of worth. Power in building something new instead of accepting the broken systems we inherited. The Thornwood isn't perfect. We've made mistakes. We'll make more. But we're trying to build a world where being different isn't a death sentence, where asking questions doesn't get you burned, where strength means protecting people instead of dominating them. Some of you came here fleeing violence. Some came seeking purpose. Some came because you had nowhere else to go. Kayla's voice carried across the gathering. But you're all here now, and together we're proving that there's another way to live, that the old systems of dominance and submission aren't inevitable, that we can choose something better. So I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm asking you to stand with me, to build this future together, to be brave enough to imagine a world where no one has to choose between conforming and surviving. She raised her voice. To the Thornborn, to everyone the world called broken, to proving them wrong. The crowd erupted in cheers. Kayla stepped back, letting the noise wash over her, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. That evening, Kayla walked alone to the edge of the thornwood. She stood where the forest met the plains, watching the sun set over land that had once belonged to Red Creek Pack and now belonged to no one. Or maybe to everyone. Iris found her there. Good speech, the girl said. Thanks. Kayla smiled, though I think I rambled at the end. A little. Iris stood beside her. Do you think it'll last? What we've built? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Kayla looked at the darkening sky. But it exists now. It's real. And even if it falls apart tomorrow, we proved it was possible. That's worth something. Yeah. Iris was quiet for a moment. I never thanked you for saving me, for giving me a place to belong. You thanked me by helping build this place, by being someone worth saving. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge. Eventually, other people joined them, Marcus and Silva and Ronan and Mara and Vera and dozens of others. They gathered at the edge of their territory, looking out at the world they'd changed through sheer, stubborn refusal to die. Someone started singing, an old song that Vera had taught them from before the purges. Others joined in, harmonizing, their voices rising into the night. Kayla listened and felt something shift inside her. The rage that had driven her for so long was finally fading, replaced by something quieter but more sustainable. Hope. Not the naive kind that believed everything would be perfect, but the stubborn kind that refused to give up even when things were hard. The kind of hope that built futures. Months turned to years. The Thornwood continued growing, spreading, becoming a permanent fixture on the political landscape. Kayla trained successors, ensured that the community wouldn't fall apart if something happened to her. She saw Thornborn children grow up never knowing what it felt like to be called defective. Saw trade networks expand. Saw former enemies become reluctant allies and then, occasionally, friends. She saw the world change slowly because they'd refused to disappear. And on clear nights, when she stood at Sable's grave and looked up at the stars, Kayla could almost hear the old woman laughing. You did it, girl. You actually did it. We did it, Kayla would whisper back. All of us. Together. Because that was the real lesson she'd learned. Not that she was strong enough to survive alone, but that she was brave enough to build something with others. That rejection didn't have to be an ending. It could be a beginning. That the people the world threw away could build something the world couldn't ignore. And that sometimes the ones they called broken were the only ones whole enough to see what needed fixing. Kayla Thorne had been rejected, exiled, left for dead, and she'd come back as something they could never destroy. Not a victim, not a monster, just someone who'd refused to accept that broken was the same as worthless. And in that refusal, she'd changed everything.